We're good? Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get this started. I want to go ahead and reintroduce myself. I'm Erin, for all those of you who are just joining us after lunch. I know it's you can kind of pop in and out whenever you want to, so welcome if you're just joining us. Welcome back if you're not. You've been hanging out today. A lot of you have been. We also want to reiterate, those of you online, there is a link for your questions. We'll get to your questions when we have pauses for questions and try to get to as many as possible. And if you want to include your name and email in those in that response to those questions, or when you post those questions, that's useful because they might need to get back to you with answers. So whenever you can do that, that would be great. It's been hard this morning for people online to hear our questions. So instead of passing around a mic, we're just I'll restate the questions you ask. So that'll save us a little bit of time as well. So feel free when you have a question, when we pause in like little interim breaks, I'll ask for questions. Feel free to ask those as well. So to recap, I do want to recap a little bit from this morning just so that we all have the same starting point of where we're jumping in today. This is a very topic specialized session on just groups and collaborations. That's what we're focused on right now for this remainder of the hour. And then we'll dive into all those advanced topics, kind of the things we didn't talk about yet today, diving a little deeper. And then the last hour is completely open. If you want me to showcase things, I can showcase things. You can ask questions, you can work, and I can walk around and help you with specific things you're working on. So that'll be a little bit more open into the last hour of training today. All right, so to get us started, to recap what we've talked about so far this morning, we looked at what you see as soon as you get into Canvas. You have this whole global environment. On the left-hand side, you have all those global navigation icons. Your account space is a place to definitely go back to sign up for notifications and to update your methods of contact, things like that. You also have this dashboard view of courses or the list view of courses. Two communication tools, calendar and inbox. We then also want to point out again, help, the most important thing you can learn. Help in your instance in UMN is really, really beneficial because they have the top support you can even get with our company. You have a dedicated support hotline, a chat environment where you can ask your questions 24/7, 365, get them answered. So anytime you're working on a course, even if it's late at night, you can get your questions answered. Or if you want to investigate on your own, highly, highly recommend using Search the Canvas guides. You can search any topic in Canvas. So any tool today we talk about, you want to learn more about, just remember the name of the tool. As soon as you know the name of the tool, you can go straight to the guides and search it and find anything pertinent to that tool. So really, I taught myself Canvas using that. It's really effective at getting the deeper dive into the tools that are in here. It's good you're attending training, though, and watching the recordings of trainings you missed, because then you get the instructional design perspective. Not just how to use tools in Canvas, but how to effectively use tools in Canvas. That's the piece that's often missing. There's so much you can do in Canvas, people tend to just want to try everything. And it might not be the best for your course design to just randomly use tools. Think methodically about how you use Canvas. So when we dive into a course, we talked about being able to hide links on the left from students in the settings, having something visual as a homepage that engages, informs, and helps them navigate your course. And then finally, building your content through modules, something really useful. Within a module, you can add assignments, discussions, quizzes. All of those items go into the gradebook, and that is how you assess your students' work. Kind of what we've talked about all morning. Now we're going to dive into a specific area of a Canvas course. This is all about if you do any kind of collaborative work in your class. Whether you just have students work collaboratively on documents, maybe they're working on a brainstorm together, a presentation slide deck together, something like that. Or if you're having them actually formally in groups where they can interact with each other inside of Canvas, work on projects together, do discussions together. It really depends on where you want to take this structure in Canvas. So that's the topic for now. I want to just really shout out to groups because I was a teacher who had a project-based class. And I used groups before Canvas, but it was in different ways. A lot of times when students were working outside of my classroom, when they have their own time, when they're collaborating like at night, I had no way to oversee what they were doing. I had to hope they were collaborating, but I had no forum to really see that they were doing that. In Canvas, you can oversee all the collaborations they do and even participate in them. Another use of groups isn't just for collaborations, though. It's also a way to share things just with specific students. So if you have maybe a file for just a group of students working on DNA research, you could share that file just with that group of students. So it's a way to segment your content as well and have sharing capabilities with just certain students versus your whole class. So we're going to look at what the group space is and all the different applications of it. We're going to start off, what is a group in Canvas? Well, where you start to structure them is on the People tab. Think of people as your roster of enrollments. It's also where you would organize your people, i.e. put them into groups. So to access groups, the group spaces, you go to People. And I'm going to really emphasize the terminology in Canvas, because I know there's similar and different terminology in Moodle, so I want to really emphasize the Canvas terminology for what you're thinking of. And then anyone who's used Moodle can kind of chime in if they have any differences they want to explain. First example, I'm going to go in a course where I have students, so you can see what it looks like when I have students. Go to my People tab, and now you can see I have enrollments in this class. So once you have students, this is what it's going to look like. You'll have all your student names here if they have pictures, their login information, what section they're in. We'll talk about the difference between sections and groups at the end, so we're not even going to mention sections yet, but I'll mention that at the end to clarify anything you need to know about that. But with the group context, here in this People space is where you can create sets of groups. What is a group set? It's a way you can create a set of groups for a particular purpose in Canvas. One example of a group set, maybe you're having a final research project and want students to collaborate in research teams. I would make a set called Final Research Project, and then in that set of groups, I'd make like a Research Group 1, Research Group 2, Research Group 3, or whatever their names of their topics are. That's a group set. It organizes a set of groups. In another example, in one of the classes I taught, I had student study teams. They were in those groups all semester. They were just a group where they could ask questions, share study materials, things like that. So I created another group set called study teams or student study teams, and then I had them pick their own groups of who they wanted to study with. All right, that's another option. Group sets, students can be in multiple group sets. They could be in study teams and in a research project grouping. They just can't be in multiple groups in a group set. So like if there's a research project 1, research project group 2, research project group 3, research project group 4, they can't be in groups 1, 2, and 3. They're in one research group project group. They're in one student study team. That's how groups and group sets work in Canvas. It is kind of similar to the terminology in Moodle. Just know you can have as many group sets going on simultaneously as you want inside of Canvas. And then you can add whatever groups to those group sets you want to add. Let's practice building that structure. When I click plus group set, let's say I want to create those study teams. I'm going to title this what I want it to be called. The group set's going to be study teams. It's going to be a set of groups for all the students' study teams in my course. You have options for how the students get enrolled in groups. You can have them self-sign up, that little question mark, whenever you see it, it talks about what that topic or tool does. So you'll see question marks all over Canvas. It's always helpful to hover a question mark. But you can create this allow self-sign-up. Students, when they get into Canvas and into your course, will be notified that they have the ability to sign up for a group. They'll know they need to sign up for a group. It's like in their to-do list. Once you select self-sign-up, you have this extra checkbox to require them to be in the same section. It's completely up to you. We're going to talk about sections later, but just know you could have like a section 1, 2, 3 of students in your class. Maybe you have like a Monday, Wednesday section, a Tuesday, Thursday section. Are you okay with them studying with other sections of students? Or do you just want them to collaborate with their exact specific section of students? Completely up to you. That's that checkbox there. Besides that, you determine the group structure. Are you going to create how many groups for them to sign up into? If I have 30 students, maybe I'm going to come up with 10 groups, 3 per group. So I can title or type how many groups I want to create that they can sign up for. And if I want to set a limit to a number of participants, I can just leave it blank. That means as many students as they want to sign up. Or I could say if I have 30 students and 10 groups, I might limit it to 3 per group. I can set that limitation if I want to. Keep it to 0 if you don't want to limit it. Or you can even just have a maximum, like I recommend 3, but you can have up to 5. You could even do it that way too. Just set the maximum you'll allow. That's the kind of best practice for that. And then you're able to have a leader automatically assigned, or later you can always assign a leader if you want to, if you don't select that. You don't have to have a leader, but if you want it to just randomly pick a leader, you could say the first student who joins, or just randomly assign a student leader. Why would you want a student leader? It's great if you do a group project, and they could be the ones designated to submit the project for you, or keep the team on track, things like that. They're also able to, if you allow them, they could change the name or title the name of the group. So that's kind of another feature they have. Doesn't give them a whole lot of power. It literally just says they're a leader. They can change the title if you allow it, and they submit the assignment. Pretty much is all their function really is. But you have options there, or you don't even have to do it. So that's with self-sign-up. That's giving them the ability to sign up into one of those 10 groups on their own. If I don't select self-sign-up, I can have the group structure where it is automatically split into 10 groups. So let's say my class does have 30 students. I can have Canvas randomly do it. I like doing that maybe for face-to-face activities. Let's say I'm in class that day and we're doing a quick presentation project where we have a 3-hour class session. They're going to spend an hour working in teams coming up with a way to present content, and they're going to build something quickly. I could do it right on the spot, split them into groups. Or if I do want a random project group, I could do it that way too. It's going to randomly assign students. And then I have that same option. I can require them to be in the same section if I want to. Thirdly, I don't have to select that. I can also create the groups manually. We're going to go to that route right now. How to create groups manually. When I click Save, all I've done is title the group set, essentially, and tell it I'm going to go create it now. So when I click Save, I now have a group set at the top. You can see I already had groups in this class. I now have another one called Study Teams. I now can create all the groups for this group set. So I'm going to create, this is a study team, so I can come up with names for them, or I could just say Study Team 1, or I could say Blue Team, Green Team, Red Team, whatever I want to call these groups. And here I can also, because I'm manually doing it, if I want to limit to so many members I can, or I can just leave blank and just keep creating some of these groups. So I'm going to create, because I chose manually, I'm going to start typing out some group names here. I'll do 3 just for practice. All right, so I now have names of teams, and because I'm manually assigning, this is how you do it manually. I go next to the student's name, click the plus button, and just pick the team they go to. All I'm doing is plus, Study Team 2, wherever I want to send them into teams. And if you want to keep an organized list of who's in what team already, just click that drop-down arrow. You can keep seeing so you know you're pairing people you want to pair together. It's not invisible. You can see who's already in the team when you do this. That is how you assign manually students to teams. Any questions so far about group sets or adding groups or adding students to groups, the different options? Yes?
Drag and drop on this screen?
Yes, those little dots at the beginning, you can drag and drop. I'm adding context. You can drag and drop them also into the appropriate study teams. Anytime you see the little dots at the side, the same in modules, you'll see those little dots. You can always drag and drop and reorder and move. Great question. Any other questions about group sets, creating groups, manual versus random, adding students? Any other questions about that so far? Yes, go for it.
When you're making random sets,
Yes.
are there any wild cards you can use to create?
So
1, red 2, red 3?
you cannot create wild cards when you create randomized group sets. That was the question. What you can do, though, is always rearrange groups once they're made. So if you see, once the groups have been made, oh, those students shouldn't be together, you can always move them out of those groups and rearrange them. So they're never stuck. You can always edit as a teacher, okay? All right, so now that we have the team structure, what does a group look like? What is a group space? The advantage of building out groups is you give students a space to collaborate. What does that look like? I just go to the gear next to the name of a group, and I go to visit group homepage. Now for students, the question's always, what do students see? How do students know they're in a group? Students don't even have to have this people space. When a student gets into a group, they automatically have right on their dashboard on the left, so I'll go to UMin really fast. UMin, right here they will have a button called groups. As soon as they're enrolled in their first group ever, they now have that button in the left-hand side. So it's super easy and quick for students to get to groups. They just click on that groups button and see a list of groups they're in. Click on the group they're in it. So it's really, really easy for students to access a group. From a teacher perspective, you would access through the people area, and you'd click that little gear icon next to the name of the group. So I'm going to go to a group I already have stuff in. So here's a class where they've already done stuff. So I'm going to go to Team Avengers. This is when I taught video production. They were all movie names. And I go to the gear next to the group space I want to go to, and I'm going to go to View Group Homepage to see what it looks like. This is what you give your students when you create a group for them. This is a fantastic way for them to collaborate and you as a teacher to see what they're collaborating about. That was always my biggest concern is I don't know who's participating, who's sharing, are they doing it by email, are they Skyping each other, like how are they really communicating things? This gives a place for every student in my class to collaborate inside of Canvas, a place they're already working. And in the group space, it's not a full course. There's no like graded assignments, discussions, quizzes, nothing goes to the grade book, so you don't have any of that stuff. What you do have is tools they can use for collaboration or sharing content. You're a teacher, you can come here too and share content just with specific groups of people. So let's say this Avengers group, maybe they're my accommodated group of students who get extra review guides and extra reinforcement, extra study skill set, flashcards. I can then just come to this group and share things specifically with them. I can add files just for them. I can have a web conference just with them. We're going to go through all these little links here. But just know this is a space not only for students to communicate with each other, I as the instructor can also communicate with those smaller groups of students versus the whole class. So it's a great way to organize your class, not just for specific projects or study teams, but also if you have differentiated types of learners in your class. You could differentiate what you're sharing with those groups of students. So there's a lot of ways to think about groups. It's really what works for you. It really helps just to use groups and see how they function. That's the best way to learn Canvas is to use it and just try out the features, how they work, because there's a million applications of every tool. But I just like it gives them a mini course to collaborate. I, as a teacher, can see what they're doing. And I can also share things with them. For example, all the people in this group, I'll go to people. You can see who the group members are and if there's any teachers or TAs in the class that can see that group. So I know there's Annie, Bill, and Alex. So if I need to share anything with Annie, Bill, and Alex, I'll just come here and do it. If Annie wants to talk to her teammates, she can post something here. If Bill wants to talk to them, he can post something here. All communication in this group only goes to this group. One thing they can do is post announcements. I myself came into this group and realized they're not participating. They hadn't started yet. So I, as the instructor, hi team, I noticed you haven't started using this yet. Make sure you get started this week. And I can give them a reminder myself. Or they can post announcements to each other. Here's one. Annie posted project conference times. I want to check in and see if we could schedule a conference to get started on our project, and she shared some time there. So the students can use it to announce things to each other. Teachers can also use it to announce things to the group. With me so far? Pretty straightforward once you get in here, right? Pages, they can create their own pages, or you as a teacher can share pages with them. So here's a page, just a mock-up schedule. They made a schedule for project work. Page is just a blank space to put what you want. People I showed you already, that's the list of people in the group. Discussions, they could have concurrent discussions going on, nothing graded. No graded content, but they have a discussion going on for project topic ideas, a discussion going on for project materials. So they can continue in all these discussions about projects, study materials. Maybe they have a discussion, if this is a study team, they could have a discussion for every single exam that's here, and they could discuss review strategies, ask questions about exam review if they wanted. Lots of ways to use this group space. They can share files with each other. Maybe one of them's making up an agenda, one of them's making up a slide deck. They could share all their bits and pieces here in the file space. The two other tools they have we're going to talk about quite a bit. Conferences we're not really going to cover. Just know that there is the ability for students to web conference for free inside of Canvas. We at this university use WebEx. So as teachers, we will not be using the built-in Canvas big blue button tool. Now for students, are they able to use that still? No? Okay. Completely turned off. Are they able to get WebEx or no as students?
So the WebEx conferences integration is
not there? Okay, got it. Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about it, but not, I haven't had anything definitive. Okay, so conferences isn't going to be for students. But they do have collaborations, and I'll go through the rest of this and then I'll take questions. So collaborations is where you can create collaborative documents, such as a Google Doc. You can also now with the new Google integration, we're going to talk about Google in a second, I'll get deep into Google, but you can also now have them collaborate on Google Slides or Google Spreadsheets also. So they can create like a collaborative Google Doc. Here's a sample Google Doc on project topic ideas. They could start brainstorming live on a live Google document. Collaborations, we're going to dive a little bit deeper outside of the group space. I just want to show you that they have that ability in a group space, but you can also at the course level set collaborations for students to work on without even being in a group. So collaborations exists in a group, but it also exists in a course, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. So I want to take a break now, and I just point out at the top here too, this is how easy it is to switch from group to group. If I'm in my class and I want to look at all my groups, I just toggle from group to group. That's it. It's that easy to go from group space to group space in your class. Once you're in a group space, you can easily navigate from group to group. So it's great if you just want to, like one afternoon, check in on their progress on a project, what they're sharing. Just come here really quickly and look. If you notice a group not working here, post an announcement to them. Hey, I noticed you're not working. Make sure you post something in here by tonight. You can really easily communicate with segmented groups of students in your class. It's great for targeted communication and for giving students a place to collaborate. That's the essentials of a group space. All right, so questions about just group spaces, group construction. Yes?
Students have that switch?
No, they can only see their group. Students, when they click on the icon on the left, can only see their group or their groups they're enrolled in when they go to them. They cannot see this toggle of different groups. It's just from the teacher point of view. Yes?
The other question from online is asking if the instructors can control the navigation elements within groups, within the group space.
Great question. You cannot control these navigation items, although conferences will not be available. They do have access in a group space to all of these items, not necessarily using it, but you cannot limit that like you can in a course. Yes?
The other question from online is there an easier way for students to return to the course homepage when they're in groups?
There's a breadcrumb trail right at the top here. If they need to return to their course, they just click that breadcrumb trail and it takes them back to that course space. That's even for instructors or students. Always look at this breadcrumb here. Canvas does a really good job of showing you all the places you're navigating to right at the top. So if you want to really go back to home, you can always just click that breadcrumb trail too and go back to the first place you were navigating, besides just going home. So once you're in a group space, you can always get back to where you need to go. Great question. Yes?
And from the home page, the easiest path to the group space is going through people.
People. Yes, the easiest path when you are a teacher is in a course going to people and going to the groups that you want to go to. For a student, the easiest path is to go to the groups button on the left-hand side, and that takes them to their group spaces easily. Yes?
Another question from online is, do groups carry over when you copy the course? I think they mean like the names of the groups.
Yeah, group sets can copy over. Obviously, enrollments won't copy over. Yes. All right, any other questions in the room about groups and group sets? I mean, it's pretty straightforward once you see it. It's just knowing what's there is kind of the biggest thing with groups and knowing what the purpose is. Groups is a place for either student collaboration or small group communication. All right, that's targeted small group communication. 2 key purposes of that. How you use those is completely up to you. You can leverage groups in a million different ways, like I said, study teams, project groups. They could just be exam practice teams, like whatever you want to create them for, it works. You can, with that being said, I always come to people. This is just a best practice. You don't have to do this. I always go to people and build my group sets before I build or assign them to projects and assignments and things like that. You can also add them when you're creating an assignment or a discussion, create groups from there. I just feel like it's more intuitive if you just build all your groups from people, you have them organized already, then you can turn 2 things into group assignments. You can have an assignment that's a group assignment or a discussion that's for groups. Those are the 2 graded activities you can have groups work on together. Assignments, you can have group assignments, or you can have group discussions. Those are the 2 graded content pieces that can be participative in groups. So I'll go through the assignments. It's the same exact process in discussions. So just know it's the same way you do it as in assignments. I'm going to go to an assignment, and I do have assignments in here, so I'm just going to pick one. Let's see. Here we go. I'm just going to totally pick a random assignment. All right, when I'm in this assignment and I'm editing the assignment instructions, I think my internet is still asleep at lunch. Come on. Always the after lunch lull. Pretty soon we'll all feel it. The food coma is going to set in. We're going to go here to an assignment, and whenever I'm editing details or settings, it's always in edit mode, that pencil icon. Anytime you see a pencil always means edit or customize. So I'm going to click that pencil edit. And there is an option when you're in an assignment or a graded discussion, you'll see the same exact option right here called group assignment. That is how you turn this into not just an assignment that's being turned in individually. This is one that groups can work on and collaborate on in those collaborative spaces. And then when you select, yes, I want this to be a group assignment, essentially a group project, you can then determine, do you want to assign grades to each student individually? I rarely chose that because I want to bulk grade and save myself a whole lot of time grading. If you don't check that, that means one student of the group can submit and it grades all members of the group at the same time. You can still go target feedback and adjust scores on individual students. We all know we sometimes have the students who don't participate or do or go above and beyond. You can still adjust individually. It just saves the bulk time of grading and gives feedback for the whole project itself. Then you can tailor it to individual students. Here, see where it says new group category? You can theoretically, some teachers do like to do this, create the groups right from here if you want to. Maybe you forgot to go to people and create the groups. You can do it right from here too. Same options. Just know if you choose manual, you're still going to have to go back to people and create the groups and assign it. So I feel like it's just more intuitive to build everything in people. Don't have to though. It can be on the fly. If you already have groups set up, you just select the group you want to assign it to. I'm going to make this my final research project. So I'm going to say those teams are going to do this. That means anyone in the groups of this group set are going to be assigned to that project with those teams. And they're going to be able to work together in those teams. And then when one person in that team submits, it's submitting for the whole team. That's what that means as a group assignment. Same with discussion. So I just click save, and now it's going to be assigned in the groups. It's going to be given as a group assignment. And students will be alerted it's a group assignment. So that's the other context. You don't just have to build groups just for random collaborations. You can also target group assignments and discussions. Besides that, there's other places here where collaboration can happen besides just in groups. So we're not going to discuss conferences because you all use WebEx here. We are going to talk about in a course, you have a link called collaborations. That was also in a group space. Students and targeted groups of students can have their own collaborations going on. I, as a teacher, can also come to the course space and assign collaborations for anyone in my class at any time. Maybe I want to have the whole team brainstorm on something. I could make a collaborative document that all students can write on. I can also target who gets to work on things. Maybe I'm having students present something to the class in groups. I could make different slide decks for different groups to collaborate on simultaneously. So I can really think about what I want to do here. I'll show you some examples. Got to remember which one's actually open. Here's one, Team 1 Brainstorm. I created a collaborative document where I gave them a space to brainstorm. I could give them just a blank document. I'm going to show you how to build this. Or I can come in once I create it and put a chart or put something they have to fill out in here. I could put instructions here. I could say on this document, every person in your group needs to contribute research or topic ideas in each respective box. So I could be very descriptive and type myself as a teacher on this. The students I assign this to could also type on this document. And it's using Google Docs. So because it's using Google Docs, I want to also point out a nice little feature. Under File, once you create a collaboration, remember, I'm going to go through the process of creating it, but once you have one, you can always go to version history and see who's actually commented what. That's powerful too. If you want to see, I assigned this document to 4 students, I want to see who's actually doing the typing on this document. You can always see the version history of who's contributed to this document. So if you are assessing students, that's a great way to kind of monitor. I'll repeat how I got there. I'm showing you existing collaborations. We're going to go through a second the process of making one. I've already made these few. Once I have it created, I can click on it and it opens out what they're collaborating on. As a teacher, I can type on it, and then any student I assigned it to can type on it as well. This is not graded. If you want them to do something graded, you build it as an assignment, discussion, or quiz. You could always do this and then build an assignment for it and just grade it in the assignment. But this is a place just for collaborations that you're going to share with the class or look, maybe a brainstorm, project ideas, things like that. Let's look at some other examples, and then I'll show you the process of building. They were doing music video projects, so they were able to contribute their ideas. I myself as a teacher made a chart on this document, and then I told students when they came here, type their name and then their ideas. So I could have now a whole class list. When I taught science fair, I made a chart like this, and I had students come in and they posted their project topic final ideas. That way no one else in the class repeated it. I had a solid list that everyone in the class could see of that. So this is what a collaboration looks like. Let's talk about constructing a collaboration. When I go to collaborations on the left in my course, I click to the plus Start New Collaboration button, and then I get some options here. Now, this is the part where I want to take a minute to talk about Google a little bit. There are a couple different integrations of Google going on right now at this school. You had an older integration that was very minimal. It allowed you to just have Google in this one place for a Google Doc to share. That's it. That's the old integration of Google. We now have a new app that's turned on for UMN where Google integrates in more places. Here now, instead of just having the Google Doc option, you can also have Google Slides in a Google spreadsheet. It enhances what you can use for Google. You also have other places Google's located. I'll point out in the more advanced session. Why is this relevant to you? You might see multiple options here when you get this Start a Collaboration. I see that I can collaborate using just Google Docs, or I see also Google Apps. Google Docs is the old integration. It's just the option of a Google Doc. If I click Google Apps, I get to choose from a doc, a slideshow, or a spreadsheet. That's the difference. So it's just because some of you have the old integration before, and now you also have the new integration. If you see that, that's all that means. You can pick either. If you want more options, pick Google Apps. Yes, you want to chime in?
If people do want to use the newer option, they are going to have to go into their course settings and make sure that
they turn it on? Okay, I'll show that process now. So you have the option there, but it's currently not turned on yet. So I'm going to take a pause from creating this collaboration and show you if you do want that more robust integration of Google, let's look at how to turn that on right now. Whenever you want any settings or details for your course, like options, that's the settings space. So I'm going to skip over to settings in a course. And the area where you can turn on these features that are not forced on you, your admins pretty much give you options for these features. If you want to come here, you can always look here to see what options you have to turn on. There's some cool stuff here. The tool you want to turn on is this external collaborations tool. That's what you're going to want to turn on if you want the full Google integration. You go to Settings, Feature Options. Give you a second if you're writing down the steps. Settings, Feature Options, and it's the external collaborations tool. You're going to want to turn that on. Just click it. You'll turn it on. All right, external collaborations tool. That's what you're looking for. You turn that on, then you'll see the Google App integration. So now I'm going to go back to collaborations. That was in Settings. Settings, the last tab, Feature Options, called External Collaborations Tool. All right. Then we're going to go back to collaborations. So now I'll go back to that Start Anew. I want to create one. And now you should see, if you haven't already, the Google Apps. All right. I always choose Google Apps. Now that we have Google Apps, why not use the more options that we have? So I choose Google Apps, and then you get to pick what type of collaboration. If I want them to present something to the class in their groups, I might make a presentation. That's a slide deck. I can give them a spreadsheet if I want them to organize some kind of data or information. When I taught physics, we did labs, a lot of times I'd make spreadsheet collaborations and they'd record like their data on it and then do like a team graph. So I liked spreadsheets for like the science and math concepts that we were learning. Or I could just do a Google Doc. Let's do a Google slideshow. Once you pick the type of collaboration, you then name it. So I might say research topic presentation, topic ideas presentation. And then for descriptions, where you can put your instructions, on this slide deck, you are going to present your ideas for our final project topic and your sources of research. So I can put a detailed description there. Sorry, I'm used to scrolling here. And students would see that when they get assigned this. Finally, you decide who gets this collaboration. I can assign it to just a specific group and give each group their own collaborative document. So I can say, all right, Team Avengers gets that. I can also select specific people. Maybe I just want to randomly start picking people for collaborations. I can say, all right, this one's going to go to Natalie, Jane, and Annie. Or I could say my whole class is going to use this. If I was doing like a whole team chart for something, I can just click through all the students in my class really quickly and have them all collaborate on this document. I can have whole class. I can remove if I accidentally do that. I can have groups or specific people collaborate on a document. It's completely open who you want to collaborate on these documents. So I might say, I want this group to use this document. So I can create that collaboration and click Submit. And now, where did it go? Research topic ideas presentation. I can go to that because I created it. And now students would be able to interact on this slide deck. They can now create this, the ones I've assigned to it. So this would be that Team Avengers. So they could put Team Avengers, topic ideas, and start making a whole slide deck to present to the class collaboratively. That means all those students now can all simultaneously work on this slide deck. It's a Google product. It auto-saves for them. Nice feature of collaborations. There's other uses for this, like you could have the students doing this themselves in their own group space, or you as a teacher can have them do this yourself. I use this a lot for team charts, team graphs. If I have maybe a quick session where they're presenting something, this is how I usually do it in a face-to-face class. You can assign to those groups or to individual students or whole class. That's a collaboration in Canvas. So a collaboration is just a place to share Google content. Starting with a blank slate, a blank document, a blank slideshow, a blank Excel spreadsheet. You as a teacher can type stuff on it, organize it for them if you want, or just keep it completely open. You're giving them a space to collaborate. That's the essentials. Yes, questions?
The question online is when students do a collaboration and you set it up for groups, do they still access this via their group tab on the left-hand side?
If it's only assigned to that specific group, yes. Correct. They can access it there. Yes? I'll repeat your question, yeah.
So, it looks like it was a blank document, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and the teacher could copy in content, but is there any way to use
Pre-existing content?
Pre-existing
So
content.
he asked if it's automatically a blank piece of content when you create this. Is there a way to take maybe something existing from your Google Drive and have them work off of it? Some kind of template or worksheet or something? Yes, but not here. You can either copy and paste it here if you really want to. That's one option. I've done that before. So if you open a Google Doc in your Drive, copy paste it, put it there. That's fine, one way. There is a better way, and that'll segue in the advanced session next. So next, will be in a few minutes, we'll start talking about this. You can make a Google assignment once that app integration's turned on. You can make a Google assignment, and you could have maybe like a master copy in your own Drive, like a worksheet, a lecture note, fill in the blank kind of guide. When you make it a Google Cloud assignment, that essentially, when a student goes to type on that, it's making their own copy in their own Drive, and they can submit right from there. I will show you that in the next session, how that works. So yes, that's the way you'd probably go about that. They can't necessarily collaborate on it. Then you'd probably just want to copy paste it here. Great question. All right, we're getting into good applications of this stuff. I like it. A couple other things to just kind of wrap up with. We've talked about all the different uses. We saved a little time not talking about conferences, so that's good. Groups and sections. Sections really confuse people. So I'm going to kind of differentiate. We really learned what a group is. You see what a group space is. It's a place for students to collaborate or for you to communicate with just specific sets of students. Sections are a little different. All of your courses have sections because that's how it's created in PeopleSoft. So when your courses come over, you're going to have a course for each section. I mean, it's going to be how the students are enrolled in PeopleSoft is how it comes over to Canvas. That's what sections really are. Now, people get confused sections versus groups because you can do different things with sections in Canvas too. That's the whole point where people get confused. Sections is a way for you to organize your student enrollments, and it's automatic. You don't ever want to mess with the sections that come from PeopleSoft. Those stay intact. I'm going to show you where sections are in a course so you're familiar. Back to that course settings area. We go to course settings a lot today. I'm going to dive even deeper next session on it. But I just want to point out something else that's in settings. You have this tab called sections. Every course you get from PeopleSoft into Canvas is going to have one section by default. It makes automatically one course for one section. That's what happens. There's a way to pull courses together. We're not going to talk about that. It's called cross-listing. That's not part of this right now. But there is a way if you want, instead of like 6 courses for all your sections, you can have what I have here. You see how I have multiple sections? I can pull all my sections into one class. Why? Because it's less times I have to copy all my content everywhere. It saves me some time. Implication with sections, well, why do I need groups then if I have sections of students? That's a question we always get. Sections works differently. You can't just post an announcement to a section. You can't just have a communication just with a section. You can do that with a group. That's why we create groups. You can have segmented announcements, share files just with groups. Have collaborations. Students can't really work with other people in other sections. It's not a collaborative space. It's just a way to group enrollments in a course. Has nothing to do with students working together. Sections has nothing to do with that. That's why we have groups. Groups are for students working together, for communicating with just segmented people. Sections ties to PeopleSoft. It's how your enrollments are grouped. You would probably have a section for Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, all your different course times and dates you teach it. One use, though, you can do for sections, if you noticed in the group space, there's no assignments, discussions, or quizzes that are graded, right? The group space had none of that. That's where sections comes in. Sections can help you differentiate graded assignments. This is where we get really confused. This is the most advanced thing I'm even talking about today. So I know if you don't even care about sections, just ignore me right now. But I know there's a lot of confusion, sections versus groups in Canvas. So that's why I want to try to clarify this. Groups is more from the instructional perspective. Like I want to collaborate, I want to communicate, things like that. Sections is just your users in Canvas, how they come over from PeopleSoft, and it's also a way to differentiate deadlines on graded content. There's no graded content in a group, so that's why sections comes in handy, because you can't do anything with groups. There's no assignments, discussions, or quizzes in groups. But with sections, so you can ignore sections now. I'm going to go to like an assignment. this is where sections come into play. I'm going to create an assignment, just title it, let's say, final project, or let's do, yeah, let's just do a project. The assign box is where sections come into play, because instead of assigning to my whole class, maybe I have different deadlines for different sections of students. That's where sections is important. I can, on anything graded, instead of saying everyone gets the same deadline, I could say, let's say the deadline's Thursday, but maybe I have another section, this section is due Wednesday. Or I have another section due Friday. I can differentiate deadlines by sections. That is where sections is handy. Sections are just how your students are enrolled in your class. Has nothing to do with collaborations and group work. Nothing to do with that. It's just a way to manage the sets of students you have in your class. They can't communicate with each other. It's not about them collaborating. It's just from an instructional design perspective, a teacher perspective, a data perspective. Your course is organized into sections. All right?
I'd just like to comment that this is probably addressing a question that someone
Yes.
said online, is what if you want to assign an assignment to two different groups, graduate students and undergraduate students, for example, but you want students to complete the assignment individually? Again, this is our example. It's the same assignment and worth the same number of points, but the graduate student group have to write a longer paper than the undergrad student group.
So you would do that as they would be different sections already in Canvas. Graduates almost, I think it should be the same here. They're usually a different section than the undergrads. So when you do that, you just assign to undergrads and graduates. You can give different deadlines if you wanted to. You can also differentiate content. There's the ability to duplicate an assignment. So if I wanted to make the same exact assignment but maybe put a few more instructions for the graduate students, I could say, all right, well, I'm just assigning this. Let's pretend this is the undergrad group or section right here. Let's pretend this is the undergrad section. So I could say, all right, this version is going to go to just undergrads. Then I can make the duplicated version go to just graduates. So you can completely differentiate with this assign box by sections. That's the key here. So when you're talking about groups and collaborations and collaborative projects, that's groups. But when you want to just talk about different deadlines and how students come over from PeopleSoft, that's sections. All right? You make the groups yourself, sections come over for you. You can make your own sections and customize them, but typically people don't. You really just think of them as what comes over from PeopleSoft. They're the groups of courses you already have set in sections. One other thing that sections is useful for is in the gradebook. I'll point that out. If you have multiple sections in a course, it allows you to just filter by section. So I don't have to grade all, maybe I have 6 sections of this course. I don't have to see all students at once. I can see just section by section to make it more manageable. That's the only other real big benefit of sections. You don't worry as much about sections as you really do if you create groups. Just know groups is more to give them a space to collaborate, to communicate with targeted people. Sections is more about how enrollments come into your course, and you can differentiate deadlines by sections because sometimes you see them on different days, or you have different levels. You have graduate, undergraduate. Those applications. That's the most confusing thing I'm going to teach you today. So I saved that for the end of this session too, so that way if we had questions about it, we could answer them. Does anyone have any questions about groups, collaborations, what collaboration looks like in Canvas? Any other like lingering thoughts or questions about that? Yes?
This is more towards sections, but if you did make 2 assignments for your undergrads and grads, they both see both assignments, or do they only see the one assigned?
Great clarification question, so I'll repeat that. He asked if you assign like an assignment to undergrad and to grad, a separate one, are they going to see both? No. They only see, a student only sees what is assigned to their section. So their grade book, their assignments list, their modules would not see anything that's assigned to a different section. So graduate, undergraduates, they might have no clue they even have a different assignment. They would have no idea. That's the benefit of that. Great question. It's good to just kind of clarify that. Yes?
I'm just wondering if you're trying to test it and you add like a demo student account,
Yes.
would you then see it?
Yes, you can add demo student accounts to do that, but typically instructors don't have that ability. You could do test student, but you can't really test student with groups and collaborations because they don't have Google accounts. It's like through your Google account still. So testing things out through a test student doesn't typically work with groups and it doesn't work at all with groups and collaborations. Most stuff in your course, assignments, discussions, quizzes, you can test out with a test student or a demo student. But yeah, it doesn't just work with groups or collaborations. All right, that was a lot to process in a short time. So we're gonna take a 3-minute kind of break till we do the advanced topics. But if you think of some things, maybe this afternoon too, those of you who are staying around, think of some of those topics you really wanna learn about too. The next session, I'll give us a couple minutes to kind of reprocess because we're getting more deeper the rest of the afternoon. We're gonna talk next more about building assignments, rubrics, Google and Turnitin type assignments, so more advanced. We're going to look a little bit more advanced at managing quizzes and assessments in Canvas, and we're going to talk more about like data and settings in Canvas. So those are kind of where we're going the next hour. It'll probably be about an hour. So if you think of anything else you really want to learn about or curious about, start thinking about that because we can definitely, with your questions, bridge into that 3 to 4 p.m. time block because that's an open question and answer time. So if you have things you really want to see, start thinking about that. Let me know anything we haven't covered. But otherwise, let's take like 3 minutes just to brain break for a minute, and then we'll jump into the more advanced topics.
Somebody online is asking about how to merge the sections.
Cross-listing, do we want to get into that? Yeah, I feel like it's a lot for a basic training.
We covered listing yesterday, that we covered easy ways to pull that in.
Yeah, it's easy to do, but it's just in an instructor training. Some instructors don't do that, so it's going to be a little much, I think.
Okay. I don't think you're going to get much into the grade book. I thought that was at the end down there today, but, or you.
Well, we really went in deep in gradebook earlier. Yeah, we had gradebook in the assessment,
okay.
assess, grade, and monitor student work. We covered it.
Okay, and that's when I got busy on that, so I didn't get.
There's a recording of it, though, so watch that, and if you have any questions about it, too. Even in the open time, I can go through stuff with you.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
I noticed that if you're going to use letter grades, A, B, C, D, you still probably, you have to give a number of points to the activity because it's going to take 92%, 100%, 92%.
To whatever the
88%.
scheme is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what they really get is that 8.5 or 8.25, things like that. is what-
So it's not perfectly what you want it to be necessarily.
Well, no, just so we know how it works.
Yeah.
Because in Moodle, we could mix letters and numbers. So what you're doing here by taking the percentage and applying it is okay.
Yeah.
And then the incomplete or not complete.
It's all or nothing score
And that all or nothing is whatever you
based on your
assign
total points.
in that assignment.
Exactly. It's specific to that assignment. Correct.
And excused, it doesn't count toward their grade.
Right. It doesn't even show up. Like, it's not part of their calculation. Yep. Hey.
So I have a meeting that I turn on
Yeah.
to at 2:45 and I should be back around 3:30.
Okay.
It's a really short meeting. But I'm interested about is the data output.
Okay.
And specifically for creating quizzes and those kind of things.
We're going to get to that in this next few minutes. If you leave, though, I can always, from 3:30 to 4, it's open time, so I can come work with you on it, too. Yeah. And they're recording this, so that's the other option.
Perfect. And are you at all familiar with RedCap or any other?
Don't use that. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have access to any of that stuff. They need paid accounts, too, just like anyone else. My company is the same way. They're like, nope, no access if you don't have a paid account. So, yeah.
Oh, well, we were in the collaborations and then you can form, Google Doc, whatever. I saw that Aaron had Office 365 as an option and I was, mine, I didn't have that. And I'm like, so then I was asking Chris. Well, it could create an Office 365 option and it would be just like the Google.
It really works almost exactly the same way. It's the same type of platform integration. So you can have a PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheet, or Word doc. And then you can also have a cloud Microsoft assignment. So if your students have Microsoft accounts, and you have a Microsoft account and have something stored in your OneDrive, you can then assign a collaborative document that way as well.
But that was a catch for you have to have the account.
Yeah. So that's why we're not bringing it up to everyone, because some of you don't have accounts with that. Yeah.
Oh, great, the software, yeah. We also have Google Team drives that are about to get turned on. I don't don't know how that works with this.
So you'll have to copy it to your personal drive to be able to share and access it. That's the biggest thing. If you have collaborative drives, that stuff will not come over to Canvas. So it's just copying it to yourself or sharing it to yourself works. Just share it to yourself and yeah. That's the workaround, pretty straightforward. All right, I'm just going to go back and kind of reintroduce what we're talking about, and we're going to dive into advanced topics. So we'll cover some of those more in-depth conversations about assignments and quizzes and data and things like that. All right, looking at an assignment, let's go back into the assignment space and talk a little bit more about the other options that are there. We talked about the two main ones. I'm going to go back. I think I started building one. Let me see if I have one here I started building. Maybe I didn't. Yep, here's my very ugly assignment that has nothing in it. All right, a couple things to note, just to recap. When you build instructions, whether it's a discussion, an assignment, a quiz, don't forget you have all these tools here. You can integrate media, recordings, audio, video record, Kaltura content, YouTube videos. You can have them watch a video and submit a reflection on the video. I mean, there's so much you can do here. The other thing I really want to point out with assignments is that think about the technology students always have with them. They have their phones. The phone has audio, video capabilities. Instead of having students, I got so tired when I taught 15-year-olds, I taught physics, and they always did posters for vocabulary. All the time, every teacher always does posters for vocabulary. I got so sick of that. I'm like, they're not even learning anything. They're copying definitions. What is that? So instead, they have their phones, and they're very eager to use their phones. I would have them record themselves acting out presentation and laws and demonstrating lab tasks and lab safety. They made funny lab safety videos, and using their phones, they can do that. You don't need fancy technology. Think about that. When you assign an assignment, it could be something where they're demonstrating or acting or responding or explaining something in verbal, video, audio, or text. So you have lots of options for assignments. Don't forget about that. I think of when you get Canvas, I like to think that it's also kind of the goal to have more authentic assessment. Whether you're using quizzes or assignments, how can we, now that we have this platform, leverage the platform to make things more authentic? Where can I actually see tasks versus text responses for everything? When I'm doing a quiz, integrating more media, having really authentic types of assessments is really key in an LMS. That's kind of one of the benefits of it. So just remember that when you have this, there's even this HTML editor. If you have any share codes or codes from other places, for example, I like to do Prezi presentations in my class. I got sick of PowerPoint. So I would do Prezi and have an interactive presentation. Well, things like Prezi, or there's an application called Nearpod that makes your PowerPoints more interactive. You can ask questions in your PowerPoint, have them draw things in the PowerPoint, kind of cool stuff. If you use applications like that, they give you a little embed code. Just like Google, if you're a heavy Google user, you know they get you an embed code if you need it. Well, all you have to do, you don't have to be a coder, you switch to HTML and just paste that code there, and then you bring it to Canvas. Students don't have to go to all those places to find those things. It's now inside of Canvas. So any site you use that you can get an embed code or a share code, just remember you have that ability to put it into Canvas as well. That way you're sending students to one place versus a million places. That was always a really great benefit of an LMS. I want to make sure in the advanced session we at least point that out again. All right, so I can type instructions or I can add a file of instructions, however I want to get them in here. Let's go a little bit more deep into the settings of an assignment. This is where we really didn't dive too deeply before. We talked about points and groups and all of that, so we're going to skip over that. We talked a lot about the submission type. All right, we said you have to at least select one, even if the option's no submission. You can also, if you choose online, select more than one option here, so you can give students choice in how they submit. Media recordings, I'll go a little bit more deep into media recordings. That gives them that little play button. They can record audio or video. It works on their cell phones. If they're using the app, they just click media recording. You can record audio, video right from their phones. Or it also gives them a place to upload saved audio, video files from their computer. That's how my video production students would submit their media recordings. So media recordings is for creating right on the spot or uploading saved audio, video recordings. And then file uploads is how you can get all those annotation tools and fun stuff when you go to grade your assignments in Canvas. So there's lots of options here. You can select more than one. We talked about groups. What we didn't talk about is peer reviews. All right, what is a peer review assignment? It allows you to assign either randomly or manually reviews for students to do. When I click peer reviews, it gives me some options. There's that manual or automatic. Do I want Canvas to randomly generate? Or do I want to go in after I save this assignment and handpick which students review which students? I'm going to pick automatic just in the essence of time. And I want to review maybe, I want to say, let's say every student gets 2 to review. They're going to submit drafts of their research papers, and they're each going to review each other's, 2 of them apiece. You set how many reviews they get, and then you also pick when they're assigned. And that means it'll show up in the student's to-do list as soon as they're assigned a peer review. They will also they'll see it all over the place, actually. Students see it in many places, not even just their to-do list. When they get to the course, they're alerted that they have a peer review. They can't really miss it. When they submit an assignment, if they submitted this, they'd see right after they submit, you have these 2 peer reviews to do. So they're going to be bombarded. They have peer reviews to do. I can set a date and time. Let's just say tomorrow it's going to be assigned to them. The last option, something I find really important, you can have them anonymous. You as a teacher know who they reviewed, but they don't know who they're reviewing of each other. So it's not a very rigorous review system, but you do have that ability if you want to. I have a slide 2 that shows the student, let's see, here. This is what it looks like for a student in their to-do list. They'd see they've been assigned a peer review. And that's what it looks like underneath when they turn in a submission, who they have reviews for. And it would just say anonymous 1, anonymous 2. It'd just say anonymous if you made that anonymous. They wouldn't see actual student names. So it's completely an option if you want it anonymous or not. I tend to make them anonymous. So they are bombarded. They see you. They have a review to do for that assignment in a couple different places. That's what it looks like to them. So going back, if you choose peer review, that's how that's set up. That's what that button's for. You also may see moderated grading. That is really for if you have people like TAs in your courses. It allows you to assign a set of students for that TA or other person to grade, and then you kind of have the final oversight before those grades get released. That's what moderated grading means. It gives you an extra step before the TA randomly just grades and it goes out to students. It gives you a little bit of oversight with what other graders in your class are doing, if you include other graders in your class. There's a really good guide. I would say just remember moderated grading. There's a guide that exhaustively covers exactly what's there in the process of it. Not everyone uses it, so I'm not going to go into that much depth showing it, but search moderated grading. You'll see a guide on how that operates. And then, again, you have that assign box. What I do want to point out as a more advanced consideration, we had someone earlier today who actually asked this to me. What do you do if you don't want to build a full-fledged assignment here? You just want to get something in the grade book. You still have to build an assignment, discussion, or quiz to get something in the grade book, but you don't have to fill out all of this stuff. If you just want a column in the grade book, all you need at a minimum is a title, a point value, and a submission type. And your submission type could be no submission or on paper, either way. They're doing it in class on paper is what I usually say. And that creates, if you don't want them at all to even have the ability to really do anything, it'd be no submission. So either way, you can do no submission or on paper, but that is how you get it in the grade book. Those are the only 3 things you need at a minimum. So if you're just creating a column, that's it. Title, points, submission type, I typically choose on paper. So they know they're still doing something, it's just not in Canvas. Or you could do no submission, it's something you're just assessing yourself, like a checklist of something you're looking at in class or something. Once you do that, you click Save and Publish. Why am I telling you to save and publish? Publish means it's there for students and you are able to grade with it. The other reason I'm saying publish is because as soon as, or save, you could save as well, but as soon as you save an assignment, look what happens. you get this plus rubric button. Everyone always looks for a rubric when they're editing. It's kind of logical, right? I would think the same thing. But you do not see a rubric in Canvas till you save the assignment. All right? So that's key. Saving the assignment is how you then see that plus rubric button. You don't have to add a rubric, but you have that option every time you build an assignment. Discussions also have the rubric capabilities. All right, just about the basic settings and structure questions, because then we're going to dive into advanced Google and Turnitin type assignments. Yes?
Someone asked if you can change the deadline even after the
Yes. So can you change the deadline once you've set it? Yes, you can change things as much as you want in Canvas, even after they've been assigned. Absolutely. Yes?
What does it mean to require a peer review? I mean, functionally, if a student doesn't do it, they still get the points for writing the paper. I'm not sure how that works.
I mean, you can't necessarily penalize unless you take points off of their assignment because they didn't do it.
Do you have an example of what that looks like to the grader?
The grader would just see in the grade book, I don't have a saved because I didn't mass grade as a student for a review, but they would see like on the sidebar, it would show which they've completed or which they haven't in the speed grader on the right-hand side at the top.
So you can voluntarily, you yourself can incorporate that into the rubric.
Yes, you can say you must do the peer review as part of the rubric, absolutely. Yep, that would be a total instructor decision. Yes, yes,
With peer reviewed, with anonymous peer review,
yes.
do you need to tell students not to put their names on their materials that will be reviewed to keep everything anonymous?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. If you do create anonymous peer reviews, make sure you tell your students not to put their names on those things. Correct. That would be a good best practice.
And then can you do pass-fail grading?
Yes, it'd be complete or incomplete for pass-fail grading. It would give 0 or full points. That's the closest to pass-fail we have.
And when submitting media assignments and the option in Canvas, does that eat up available total storage, hard disk space in Canvas? And does the U of M have a limited Canvas storage?
Yes, it does eat up. So when you submit from your submission space and it's a media recording, when you do have students submit, yes, it's part of your total storage space. However, there is the ability, if you have a heavy media course, to up the limit of a specific course if there's that need. And honestly, I taught video production and still didn't really fill my quota for that. So, and I had students submitting tons of media. It's hard to get the media filled, but there is the ability on a case-by-case, course-by-course basis to up media storage, yes.
We'd recommend Kaltura.
Oh, perfect, yes, perfect. Students can submit even from other places. They don't have to just submit from Canvas. There's other tools. They have access to third-party tools just like you do. So if they're housing, do students have accounts in Kaltura? So yeah, students could host their videos and media and submissions in Kaltura and add it the same way instructors add it. Through the text entry, there's that little icon they can add, and then it can house and store all the data for them. So there's really no need to ever fill your quota inside of Canvas, essentially. Great questions. All right, so before I go to rubric, I'm going to show you those other advanced type of assignments. So that's where the submission type changes. So I'm going to ignore all these other settings and go straight to submission type. And instead of all the normal Canvas submissions, if it's a third-party tool, external tool is my option. And when I click external tool as a submission type, to find the external tool I want, I click find. And here's where you can find Google, or you can find Kaltura, or you can find Turnitin. I can't really demo Turnitin because I don't have a Turnitin account. What I can tell you though, Turnitin is fantastic in that you can have the assignment criteria set up here through Turnitin. Once you make it a Turnitin assignment, you don't need any instructions for a Turnitin assignment. Keep the instructions blank. You come in here and make it a Turnitin assignment, and when you save it, that's when you're able to set the Turnitin settings and assignment instructions and everything. So if you build a Turnitin assignment, it's kind of nice because once you save it and do the settings from Turnitin, in the speed grader, when you go to grade the assignment, you can see that, I just blanked on the name of it. The little report you get, what's it called? I just blanked. Originality, thank you. The word just totally dropped my mind. You get the originality report right when you're in the speed grader. It's kind of a cool thing. So that's one way to get to Turnitin. You can Turnitin assignments. Google Docs is the one I'm going to demo because I do have a Google account. when you go here to that external tool submission type, this is how you assign that document from your drive. So I click on Google Doc Cloud Assignment, and it has me, I haven't logged in this account yet, so I'll authorize. The first time you use it, it has you authorize. After that, you're usually pretty good. Yes, I want to use Google, it's okay. It'll take me to my drive. So I come here and I'll find a worksheet I want to assign. I think I have lecture notes somewhere here. Let's say I want to have a worksheet of lecture notes. I think I have some. Maybe not. Do I really not have any in here? All right, we're going to totally just make up. Let's see. I'll have them do a reading log. We're going to pretend we're elementary right now. That's one of my elementary examples. I had lecture notes, I swear. I don't know where they went. I must have called them something weird. So I'm going to just add that Google Doc here. Submit. So select. I'm selecting that Google Doc. Now I just save it. So after I can set the date it's due and everything like that too, but I'm just showing you how to set it as Google. Once you set it as Google, you see the teacher view here. It shows up right on the screen. Here's a very elementary worksheet, but you get the concept. I made just a Google Doc that I wanted students to fill in. And so it automatically, because I built it as an assignment, it automatically makes a copy to every single student. So when they start typing on it, it's saving to their own drives. And then they'll get a little, where I see the edit, because I'm a teacher, they'll see a submit button. And they can submit when they're finished, and it submits a snapshot of what they did. Therefore, they can't just keep editing it after the assignment deadline, because Google Docs, that's typically what you can do. You can edit as much as you want, right? That's students figured out, well, I already submitted, but I can still keep typing on this document and keep updating it even though it's past the deadline. That stops them from doing that. They send a snapshot. They can always resubmit, but you'd have a record every time they edited it. So it gives a copy of like a master worksheet, a master document out to all your students at the same time, and they can all type on it. It's great for notes. One of the best ways I've ever seen notes used. But it's also great for just worksheets. Practice. Math teachers use this a lot, and they can type right on it, and then it automatically saves in their drive, and they can submit right from the screen. That's the Google assignment integration. Yes?
So if you assign this to a group of students, could they all work collaboratively on this assignment?
No, because it's still, the problem with the Google integration in this way is it's linked on an account by account basis. So if a student is logged in here, because it's not in that collaboration space, if a student's logged in here, they're still only accessing the Google through their own personal account. That's why. Yeah.
Can you explain that we're not taking questions really from the room? People are saying that they can't hear the questions, but you're reiterating and
Right. I'm just emphasizing, yeah, I want to say to the online people, I know it's really hard to hear or pay attention to a really long session online when you're not in the room for questions. I'm making sure when people ask questions that I'm re-emphasizing what they're talking about. So I've been including in the response, without having to exactly verbatim repeat questions, I'm at least trying to put the context of what they're saying, and I'm explaining the whole thing that they asked. So you're not really missing anything from the question. I'm putting all of their question components into my response. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Yes?
So technically, to access the Google assignment, they will need to go through Canvas, right? They cannot bypass and find the document in their drive.
All right, so he asked a really great question about how they submit through Google. Does it have to be in this way? Can it be from their own Google Drive? Maybe they completed an assignment on their own, and then they wanted to submit it. That's another version of this. This is the way you set up a Google assignment if you want them to all work on the same master worksheet that gives a copy to them. That's the Google Cloud Doc way to do this. If you just want to assign, you say, all right, write a research paper. If you want to submit from Google, you can. That's just a normal file upload type submission. So I'll show you again when I go back to edit settings. Let's say I want to switch this, not make it a Google Cloud assignment. I don't want a copy of this master worksheet to go out. I just want to say, all right, they can submit online through a file upload. If I enable file upload, they're automatically going to have Google as an option if they synced and signed into their Google account already. So Google will be an option when you have file upload. There's another tab, submit from Google Docs. They can submit from there. Great question. All right, let's talk about rubrics. I'm going to go down to save this again. This is a terrible assignment. We keep messing this one up. Here's that plus rubric. As soon as you build your assignment, there's the plus rubric button. And then after I show rubrics, I'll give us a time again for questions about that. I was the teacher before using Canvas that had a million rubrics already formatted, and I was not wanting to rebuild all my rubrics in Canvas. It was incredibly frustrating to me. But I will tell you right now, if those of you who were in that gradebook session, assessing rubrics is so much quicker inside of Canvas, and it gives really quick feedback, better feedback to your students. I like that in Canvas, you can completely customize rubrics. You're not stuck to rigid columns. Like all my rubrics before this were made in Rubistar, and they were like perfectly formatted columns. I liked that every criteria could have different levels of ratings. Doesn't have to, but I like that you had that ability. There's even a new feature now in Canvas where you can have rating scales, where you can have like ranges of ratings, like 10 to 12 points is this, 10 to 8 points is this, 6 to 8 points is this. Or you can just set definitive point values for different rating scales. You have complete flexibility now in how you build your rubrics. The other benefit of rubrics is that you never ever have to rebuild one you've already made. You build it once, it's there forever. You can reuse it as many times on as many future assignments as you want. That's why it's worth that time investment. I could build an oral presentation rubric for a project. Next oral presentation we have, find it, pull it in. Tweak it if I want. But you're never wasting time, and you always have it saved for future use and editable use. All right, so that's kind of the power of rubrics. It's worth building them, I promise you. I ended up doing one in here, and I went, like, within a week built all 20 in here because it was that useful to me to build rubrics inside of Canvas. Yes?
Could you say what you would recommend for departments wanting to use the same rubric? How you might use Commons, maybe?
Sure, yeah, I'll get into that. We'll talk about construction, then I'll talk about application of that. That's a good thing to make sure we bring up. I'll make a note of that too to make sure we talk about that. So department-wide rubrics, all right. All right, so with that being said, how do you build a rubric in here? It's very straightforward. As soon as you save an assignment, you get that plus button. Title the rubric. So if I title the rubric, this is for recording a speech, so I can say speech rubric. This little find a rubric, there is one sharing way to do rubrics by department. The admins of the department can share rubrics with the whole department. That's one way. Instructors don't have any control over that. That's a way. Maybe you work for the College of Engineering and you have key engineering principles you always check for in your engineering products. You could have a whole department-wide rubric that everyone can just find by going to the Find a Rubric. That's built by your admins. Now, there's other ways to share. We'll get to that afterwards. But that's the Find a Rubric, any that have been created for you at a department or an institution level, or any you've already created in the past will be found there. So if I click Find a Rubric, there's none in this account, but if I go to my real account, I'll show you. I have tons of rubrics in here. Once you've been in Canvas a while, you'll have lots of rubrics. Here's an assignment. Let's go ahead and look at this rubric. All right, find a rubric. In my account where I already have stuff, I see all the rubrics I've already created here. So I could just pick one and have it. Or I can even see some from my whole account shared here. Like there's a writing rubric I could use from my account, a discussion board generic rubric that they shared with me. So you can have sharing done this way as well and find all your existing rubrics. Or you can just create one right here. I'm making one called speech presentation. Let's say, first criteria, this is how easy it is to add criteria. You just click where you want to type. That's it. It's that straightforward. My first criteria could be timing, 1 to 2 minutes in length. You can be as descriptive as you want. It'll auto fit to your contents. There is a character limit, but it's really high. So you probably don't want an essay here in a rubric, but you can have detailed criteria if you want. You can even add longer descriptions. Here's that ability if you want to add a range of points. You can enable a range of points if you choose to. I'm just going to do regular ratings though. I'm going to say, all right, if they meet time requirements, it defaults to 5. Nope, I want to give them maybe 6 points if they meet time requirements. I can completely customize and change this. I can say does not meet time requirements and they get 0 points. What if I want to add other criteria or rating scales there? What if I say, well, they might not meet the time requirements, but they could be close. I don't want to give them a 0 if they're close to the time requirements. So anytime I want to add a rating, I just click between where I want to add it, and it automatically will add a rating for me. So I can say, all right, let's call this close to time requirements. And maybe I'll give them 4 points. I'll change that 3 to a 4. And OK. I completely customize the ratings for each criteria. If I want to add another criteria, I click plus criteria. I can then add something else. I can say, all right, well, they have to have a strong thesis statement. I could add more detail if I want. I could be really detailed here, say thesis includes at least 3 arguments with supporting details, maybe for 10 points. Every criteria can be different point values, different levels of detail. It'll keep auto-adjusting to fit your contents, all right? So you keep adding criteria and ratings till you total your total point value here. This is a question we had earlier. What about extra credit? One way to add extra credit to rubric. Make your rubric worth more points than your total assignment value. So sometimes I'll put an extra row in my rubric that's like 5 points, and I'll have it as an extra credit. So technically my rubric could be out of 105 points, but my actual assignment in the gradebook's only out of 100. Anytime in the gradebook you get a score over your maximum score value, it's going to count as extra credit. Yes?
When you flip it, so if this is worth less, does it scale up to 100?
No, it does not scale up. It keeps different. So that's where you definitely want to just have it either equal or have the rubric worth more than the point values. That's a big consideration. So that's my favorite method of extra credit here, add it to a rubric. That's number 1 what I do for extra credit. That was the question we had earlier today. Yes?
Just confirming that rubrics then hold to the point value and are not using a percentage.
Right, they are very specifically on the point values, correct. So you always want to match. What's nice is that when I go to save or create this rubric, does it not do that anymore? I might be shooting myself in the foot saying that. Usually it prompts you. I normally get like a pop-up that says point value is different than total maximum points. It didn't just happen. I hope that didn't update and go away. It worked last week, so I don't know. But usually you do get a prompt. I'm going to see if that's a new update or something. But yeah, usually you get a prompt like, just a warning, their point values are different. Yes?
Second from the bottom checkbox.
The grading, is that when it's going to do it? Probably, yeah, you're right. There you go, thank you. Haven't gotten there yet. Thank you, that's why. Yeah, it'll prompt you if the points don't match. You can leave it different. Maybe you're going to finish the rubric later. You don't really care right now. Or it'll prompt you to change it because the point values don't equal. And that brings us to these other options down here. I'm going to point out these options and then we'll answer questions about rubrics. So your total points will always total to the right. You want to make sure they match, or if you do extra credit, it can always total a little bit more. You can switch the type of rubric. I already showed you one way. You can make it a range of point values with that little checkbox. You can strip rating point values completely out if you choose this first option, I'll write freeform comments. That's for more like creative projects where you don't have common rating point scales. It's more open-ended. It gives you a box when you're grading to type what your response is and manually put a score into it. So that's if you just want to type your feedback without clicking boxes of feedback. And you just switch it back by clicking that checkbox again. You definitely, unless you're just using it for formative feedback, use this rubric for grading. That means when you're in the speed grader clicking it, it's actually going to score and total the points. You don't have to, though. If you just want to use it for feedback, you're not grading based off of it, you don't have to. And then you can also, if you're not using it to grade, you can even hide the score if you want. It doesn't have to show to students. So the other thing you'll see here is find outcome. We're not covering outcomes at all in training, but just know outcomes are a way to measure actual student learning towards objectives in your course. So like in video production, I had students will be able to appropriately use all different types of microphones. So I could add that like kind of learning goal to my rubric and assess it. That's what an outcome is in a course. You will have common outcomes you'll use at the institution here at UMN, but that's just not what we're covering in training right now. So just know that's what that is. It's how to tie a rubric to a learning goal. Pretty much is all it is. And then you click Update Rubric once you have it there. And now if you ever create a future assignment, you have this rubric available to reuse or edit. questions about rubrics? I have a question that I get asked a lot, and then I'll answer your question. So a question I get asked a lot is, I'm doing a Google or Turnitin assignment. Now it's not letting me add a rubric. You cannot, once you turn an assignment into something other than Canvas, so it's Google, Turnitin, any third-party tool, rubrics are no longer available. So if you do want to use a rubric from Canvas in the SpeedGrader with those external tools, like you have that Google Doc you want them to fill out, and you want to use a rubric to grade it, the note for that is there's a workaround. Don't turn the assignment into a Google or Turnitin or anything yet. Create just the title, the points, the date. Save it. Add the rubric first, then go back and turn it into a Google, Turnitin, or other type of assignment. That's a question I always get. So I just want to make sure I tell you, once you turn an assignment into something that's not Canvas, Turnitin, Google, you lose the ability to add all those features like rubrics and peer reviews and all of that. So if you want to do any of those things, make sure you do that first, save it, then go back and add it as that third-party type of assignment. Just a workaround, because you're essentially, once you turn it into that assignment, Canvas has no control over it anymore. It's just working with the third party. So that's why that's a kind of an issue. It's important to know. Yes?
Can you modify the rubric after that?
You cannot. It's set. You will not even be able to access it until you're in the SpeedGrader.
Okay.
So you cannot edit the rubric once you've done that.
It has to be ready to go.
Correct.
Turnitin has its own.
Right. If you're using Turnitin rubrics, yeah, you can definitely use it through that. It's just I know people still like the Canvas clicking rubric. That's where we get that question a lot. So, yeah. Yes?
Could you share how you would go about sharing a rubric with others?
Okay, yes, so that's the one thing we didn't get to. One way is for your admins to put a common rubric for your department. But what if you just want to share with a group of teachers you're working with? You'll want to build an assignment with a rubric. It could even just be blank, just have the rubric with it. And when you share that to the Commons, see the gear for that assignment has shared to Commons, it'll share the rubric with it. And so you don't even have to keep the assignment. Once the rubric's in the course, they have access to that rubric. So the best way would be to create your assignment with the rubric and then share to Commons. That puts it in the Commons space. When you share to Commons, you call it what you want. So you come here, you authorize, and it'll ask you, who are you sharing it with, public or just UMN? What do you want to call it? What's the description? You could be very descriptive. This is just for these teachers. You can be very descriptive in what you're putting there, and then have it shared out with your the people who want to share it. That's this Commons area here. Anything you create doesn't just have to be an assignment with the rubric. Anything you create, if you go to the gear, share to Commons, you can share it with other teachers. So for rubrics, it's pretty much tied to assignments. Yes?
I would just make sure that people understand the difference between sharing at the U of M and sharing.
Public, yeah. That's why I even mentioned it, because I don't want, if you share publicly, there's the option, just public or UMN specific. Publicly means any Canvas user in the world can use it. So you probably don't want things public, unless you're really just trying to be a good Samaritan. It's nothing about UMN. You're just making like a really cool page you think others could benefit from. You could share that out public. But if it's something specific to your faculty or to your specific course content, I would share with just UMN specifically. That's just an option. You pick as soon as you click Share to Commons, there's an option for it. It shares publicly to every user in the world if you do share publicly. Yes?
If we have a administratively created and shared rubric, and let's say it's worth 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
I want to use it in my class, but my assignment's worth 50. I'm going, since it doesn't use percentages and doesn't scale, I will have to rework that rubric.
Yes.
To be equal to the value of my
So,
assignment.
correct. So once you import a rubric or find a rubric from somewhere else, you're going to want to yourself adjust the point values to make sure they equal to your total assignment value. That's essentially what was just asked. Yep. Great point to reiterate. All right, we're getting pretty deep here. Yeah, another question from there? Yes.
These aren't related to rubrics, but kind of.
Yeah, if we want to bring them up, this is the advanced session. We can definitely talk about what we need to.
Here's an interesting one. When you create a group Google Doc assignment, whose account does it go to? So you mentioned that the students would see.
If it's if it's a collaboration that's created, it's in your personal account. So whoever creates the collaboration gets that document. If it's done through Google, like assignments, then it's your own personal account and also copies to every single student account. But if you're doing a collaboration, it's just the owner who has that document in their account. Just the owner. Yes?
And then another question that you covered earlier is creating custom scales, custom grading scales in Canvas.
Oh, okay. So like when you're doing, in the context of the gradebook, is that what you're?
Just generally, that we can.
Yeah, you can completely customize what your grading scale is. They can do it at the whole institution level. They can do it at the admin level. They can even do it course by course in your gradebook. You can pick different grading schemes to use for your course. That is an option. Yes?
And then final online question for now. If you're using complete, incomplete grading, how does that calculate into the grade total? I.e., if all assignments are complete, incomplete, how do students get a grade?
It does give them a score. It's when you set your maximum points, it's either going to give them 0 if you click incomplete or full points if you click complete. So it's just a way to save yourself time grading. You can tell your students you're getting either full or no points. I did it a lot for like if they had to just submit something, I do complete or incomplete, 0 or 100%, or if I did add a 50 point, 0 or 50. It automatically assigns a numerical value based on complete or incomplete. Great question. All right, lots of stuff for assignments. Let's diverge a little bit to quizzes because there's a lot of stuff with quizzes and data in your course we can cover. I'm not going to spend time really going into building quiz questions because I feel like that's something we can figure out. I'm going to show you one quiz question I'm going to build just so you can see the media features because that's a little bit more advanced than the guides show. I like to just think, why just make basic multiple choice questions? I want enriching, relevant, authentic type questions for my students. So I taught video production. I don't want them to answer vocab questions all the time. I want them to identify a camera shot, show me the proper angle. Like I want them to actually authentically assess versus every assessment being a multiple choice, just text-based question. That's not useful for a video production class. So what can you do to add elements to your questions? I'll show you when we're constructing a quiz. Let me go to a class where I have, well, I'll just build one from here. Let's go to quizzes. I'm going to build a quiz really fast. So a quiz is a misleading word. A quiz in Canvas is any type of assessment. I think of it as the tool Canvas grades for me. Anything I can put in a quiz, I do. Sometimes I'll even put guided lecture notes in a quiz, worksheets in a quiz, because then it gives automatic feedback to my students. I don't have to sit there and grade it. I love quizzes. I put anything there. When students enter my class, I'll sometimes have like a 3-question, like get focused type assessment. When they leave my face-to-face session, if I have a 3-hour session, I might have an exit where they have to show me they learned something in here. Quizzes also is great because it stores and saves data of performance of students. So you have records and data to analyze. So I love the quiz tool. This is something I used frequently. Anything I could think to put in here, I did. It gives automatic feedback for me. Saves me a lot of time. I made study guides as quizzes. You have different options when you click your quiz type. You can have graded or practice quiz. Practice quiz will still give students all the feedback, but it doesn't go in the grade book. So I did a lot of study guides this way. I didn't have to spend time in class going over a study guide. This gave automatic study guide feedback. They got the question wrong. The feedback I gave them was, look at this PowerPoint, or here's a link to review it. I could give links and resources in their feedback. It self-directs them to study. Makes my life a whole lot easier. So you can use this in multiple ways. It's not just for, and the word quiz is misleading anyways. It can be a formal exam. It could be just a quick quiz, a check exit type of activity. Really anything you want to assess and track and give feedback for is good for this quiz tool. You also have the options for surveys, graded or ungraded. Graded survey, they're all the same question types. The only difference between graded and ungraded survey is there's obviously no right or wrong answers in a survey. So all graded means is they get an all or nothing grade. Do you want them to get points for doing it or not? I chose graded survey because I want my students to do the survey. So if they see they have to do it for a grade, they're going to take the survey. It doesn't score right or wrong, obviously, though, because it's a survey. So you have options here. You also have the ability to shuffle answers. That's nice because when I make my questions then, I don't really have to worry about the order I put multiple choice every time. Just make the first answer correct. It doesn't matter. It's going to shuffle it anyways. Makes my life a little easier. You can set a time limit if you want. Multiple attempts, let's talk a little bit about that. So do you want multiple attempts or not? If you don't select that, they just get one try. That's it. It's the final exam, whatever. If I select that, I have options. I can say allow multiple attempts, that's unlimited. If I select this checkbox below, allowed attempts, I can set that maybe they only have 2 attempts. I'll give them 2. You can set allowable attempts if you want. Then once you have more than 1 attempt, you can also just determine if they keep the highest, latest, or average of the scores. You completely pick what's kept in the grade book. It's done automatically for you, the assessment of this. Another option you have is when students see feedback. Maybe they're taking their exam at different times. I don't want them seeing feedback. Deselect this box. Final exam, they don't need to see it right now. Keep it hidden. Another thing is you can decide when they can see their feedback. Only after their last attempt. So give them 2 attempts, but they can't see their feedback till they're done. Only once after each attempt. Now, a side note with this, our students are smart. If you let them see their feedback, there's no promising they don't screenshot that feedback or copy and save that feedback somewhere. So just be wary if you do allow them to see their feedback. There still could be some cheating and sharing and saving going on. You could also wait and schedule a time frame they get to see their feedback. So you can say, all right, I'm going to let them on Friday in class view their feedback for the first 30 minutes of class, and just give them a window of time to do that. So you have some limitations. Just know students are smart. They know how to screenshot and take photos of feedback. So we live in a digital age. It's not too hard to do that. If you want to completely hide it from students because of cheating, you can. You also have the ability to chunk content, showing 1 question at a time. That'll give them a nice next button. You can even limit so they can't go back. Maybe they have progressive questions. You don't want them to go back and change once they get to a question that kind of answers it. You can lock them from going back. Typically, we don't do that, but there's use cases where you might want to. Here's 2 more limits for security. You can require an access code. I know a lot of teachers do this. They don't want students who are at home or students doing other things accessing the quiz. So they could have the quiz open and just no student could start until they type the password. So I might want all my students to start at the same time, so I'll require a password, and then they all have to type it in before they can start. Filter IP addresses is where your tech people can set up labs, sets of computers for assessments, and kind of lock it down on those places. You also have, I think you have Respondus here, don't you? Yeah. So Respondus also works with Canvas too, so you can have the lockdown browser and all of that going on with your exams. Then you have that normal assign box we see everywhere. Those are all the details in a little bit more detail. Let's look at crafting just 1 type of question. I'm not going to go too deep into here. I want to point out every single question type. So if I click new question, here's all my question types. Every single one of those has a guide that tells you how to build it. So some of them are pretty easy. True, false, I feel like anyone can kind of make a true, false question. It's not too difficult. But when you get into like multiple drop downs and formula questions and things like that, they get a little more complicated. All you have to know is the name of the tool or the type of question. Go to your help guides. Let's say I want to look at formula question. Go to help. Search the Canvas guides. It's a good review of help too at the end today. Formula question. Here we go. The internet's going to load it. It's going to happen. There we go. How do I create a simple formula quiz question? How do I create a formula quiz question with a single variable? Look, I get very detailed. I can also go to just the guides for quizzes. Let's take out the search area here. I can go straight to Canvas guides and click quizzes. So I go to instructor guides, scroll to quizzes. There we go. And look at all these. How do I make it true, false? How do I make a fill in the blank? How do I make multiple answers? How do I make multiple drop down? See, there's a guide for everything. So this is where you can go if you really want to learn the ins and outs of building a question. Know that there's always help available for you. But let's look at some of the more advanced features of a question. I'm just going to keep multiple choice there. This little box at the beginning is a consideration for if you are using question banks. It's a way to organize your questions. Students do not see this, what you type here. A lot of teachers just keep question because they don't know about this box. The thing to know about quiz questions, you build it once, it's there forever. It goes to this bank of questions that's unfiled. If you have 200 questions, that bank's going to have 200 questions. This tag helps you sort those questions into banks. If every single question just keeps the default question tab, it's not helpful in any way. You want to target what this question's about. So I might say this is about camera shots and angles for my video production class. So I now know when I'm looking for this question later, oh, it's a camera shot and angle question. I can easily find it. That's a tag box. It's just a way to sort your questions. It's just for teachers only. All right, that's what that box is. No one ever knows what that box is. That's what it's for, to help you better organize your questions. You choose the question type. We already went through all of those a little bit earlier. And your point value, you can always change this later. Type your question here. Look what you have for a question. All of those tools. I can put a video, a YouTube video in my question if I want to. Watch this video and then answer the main idea. I can add links. I can add tons of stuff to my quiz questions. Let me just say, which camera angle is a low angle? All right. Now I can type text responses here. It defaults to just let you type text. I'm really kind of asking for like a picture though here, or a video, or some kind of media. So I want to point out, when you're adding your choices, there's a nifty little pencil icon to the right of each choice. That is how you open up more options than just text. When I click that little pencil, I now have, even for answer choices, a full rich content editor. I can add a recording. Maybe I want to audio explain, video explain. I can read questions and answer choices to students. I can add YouTube content. I can add Kaltura content. Whatever I want. Pictures. Let me add pictures here. Let's see if I can add a picture of, there's a way to search for pictures, that little embed image icon. We haven't talked about that yet. Never enough time to talk about everything. Right here is this little embed image icon. It's a way to add pictures, or I could just go to my computer and add pictures too. I like Flickr. It's already integrated, so I can search for a picture. Let's type low angle. And I can find, here's a low angle shot, and use that if I want to. You can also change the size or dimensions. I like to keep all my pictures and quizzes the same size. I'm just going to pick a size and keep it the same. Update. I added something other than text. How I did that again, let me click done. Instead of typing text, clicked the pencil icon. That opened up all those media tools for me. It doesn't have to be a picture. I could have added a video. I could have added audio recordings, whatever I wanted to add there. Just know it's possible. This is something that no one ever knows is a possibility here. You don't have to just have text answers. So you put your choices. I'm just going to put one more choice here. Find a picture of a high angle. That way they have a correct and incorrect answer. There we go. All right, I like that one better. I'm going to make the same size just so when I have the quiz, I don't have all these random sized images, making them all the same. Done. Now I have two choices. There we go. So they at least have a multiple choice question with two choices. I can keep adding answer choices or deleting. So I'm going to delete these two that are defaulted here. There's a little trash can. Or I can always add another answer choice with the plus button. I can add as many multiple choice answers as I want. You also have these little feedback boxes. That's how, if you want to, when you're giving feedback, to give like correct and incorrect answer feedback. Great job, you got this right. Or, sorry, that's incorrect. Here's a resource for how to learn about this topic. Then you just want to make sure you always, besides checking the answer that's right, defaults to the first one. This little arrow says which answer is correct. So it's the first one that's right, and then I click Update Question. I just wanted you to see a frame of reference of all the details of when you set up questions. You don't have to be that detailed. It's a lot faster if you just do true, false, multiple choice, quick text answers. But there's a lot of features people don't even know about in quiz questions. That's what I really wanted to point out. There's way more options than that. Just know you come here, plus the question, or I can go to Find Questions and then find questions I've already created and pull them in as well. Admins can share question banks with you. You can copy question banks from course to course. Quizzes can be shared to the Commons and back here. There's lots of ways to get question banks into Canvas. You don't just have to create your questions every time. All right, questions just about questions, because then we're going into the data of quizzes. So questions just about questions. Yes?
You don't have to delete the extra ones if you don't use all four choices, do you? I mean, Canvas will only use the first two you created.
It'll show blank for the extra 2 questions. So he had a great question about if you don't delete those other additional options, they will show as blank options on the quiz question. So you do want to delete any you're not using. Great question. Yes. Anything else online or anything? We're good?
When you're saying admins, it might be useful to point out that what we've called them in the past is category support.
Okay.
So those are generally staff or instructional designers or academic technologists who have access to a college or department's entire sub-account in Canvas.
So those category support people are the ones that can have the ability to add those rubrics or question banks, things like that, to go out to all the people in that department.
And if you don't know who yours is, there's a list on the Canvas Transition website.
All right, so the Canvas Transition website also has a list of those people if you need to find out who yours is. All right. Let's look at the back end of quizzes. When I create a quiz, why am I creating a quiz? What is there for me? This is the fun part. I love this. All right. What are all those tools you have as a quiz? Let me clear out some of this stuff. I have way too much open here. I'm going to go to a class where I already have a quiz. So once you assign a quiz, you build it, you save it, you publish it, you assign it. I'm going to go to a quiz that's already been assigned. All right, when you're a teacher and you click on a quiz that's already been created, what's there now for you? You get on the right, as soon as I click on the quiz, I get this area where quiz statistics and moderate are located. Really, really useful. This is probably the most useful piece of data in your course. I get the question, I've already had this question today too. What if I have, actually the person that asked the question just left, so I'll get back to that in a minute so they hear the answer. We'll start with quiz statistics. So quiz statistics is where you get the data for the quiz. Once students start taking it, you can see those statistics for that quiz. And you can get it as a spreadsheet or see the visual view here in Canvas. If you'd rather deal with a spreadsheet of data, you can get the student analysis, student by student, or the item analysis, item by item. All right, you can get those 2 spreadsheets at the top. You can filter by section. If you want to see data section by section, you can do that, or whole class. You get a grade distribution. And then you get that item breakdown on the screen. So you see the discrimination index, you see the percentage correct, you see who answered which incorrect questions and correct questions and how many people out of the percentage. That's helpful if you're trying to see which answer choices they're getting confused by. You can definitely get this breakdown here, or if you want a more data-based view, you do those spreadsheet views. So you get this visual item analysis. You also get the spreadsheet analysis. So that's the quiz statistics, what pops up when you get access to there, once you have a quiz assigned. Right below that is probably the most useful link here. The question came up, what do I do to accommodate students? What if a student gets extra time or extra attempts on an assessment? What do I do? It's this moderate quiz link. This is where I go once I have assigned an assessment if I just have a few students who get extra time or extra attempts. Moderate quiz. You'll have a list of all your students, and any student you want to adjust those settings for, you just go to the pencil icon next to their name, and it allows you to add extra attempts or extra time here. Now, what if I have several students? A lot of us do, that's the reality. So I can also select multiple students and do it all at once. So much easier than doing it one by one. So let's say these 4 students get those accommodations. I can scroll down to the bottom because I selected more than one, and look, change extensions for so many students. Instead of just doing it now one at a time, I can do it for multiple students at a time. I can even do whole class. Maybe I really messed up this quiz. I want everyone right now to get an extra attempt. I just click everyone here. And now I can go down and change and add an extra attempt for everyone. All right? So this is where I go, not only for accommodations, but for like that example, if I messed up and need to reassign an attempt, or if I maybe have a student who their computer shuts down in the middle of their quiz, I can come here and open up another attempt for them. All right, so moderate quiz is really useful. Here's my favorite part of a quiz. The gear icon, there's more stuff here. Favorite part. When I get to quiz results, I can click on a student. The only reason I see an exclamation point is telling me I have an essay question to grade. Why did I assign an essay question? Now I have to grade it. So annoying. I'm going to pick a student, though, and I can see student by student their results. And I even get this log, this view log. And it gives me, question by question, how much time they spent on each question. So I can get very granular with what data I'm looking at for a quiz. I can even view it as a table and see a progression of how they progress through the quiz. I can see if they've navigated away. I know like Lockdown Browser helps with that. You can lock down what they do and don't do. But this is great if you just need to see big picture. Oh my gosh, they've spent no time reading these questions. I wonder why they failed. Well, they spent 2 seconds per question. They obviously just clicked answers and moved on. It gives you that piece of data. That is the view log. You get there when you click on that gear icon. You can get to individual student results, and that's where that log is located. You can also message students who message students who haven't taken it or haven't scored a lower score. You can quickly message them from this space too. Lots of things. If I really messed up this quiz and want them to stop taking it, lock this quiz now. Or if I just am closing out the window, lock this quiz now. Between periods, class periods or sessions, or maybe there's a break in your class, lock the quiz now. They have to stop taking it immediately. So you can unlock and lock as you need to as well. Lots of quiz data features here. That segues us into one other like really big topic I want to talk about, and then we'll take some questions about quizzes, then we'll segue to the data other places in Canvas. And that's kind of how we'll wrap up the advanced session. Yes?
Just show how to get to the log again.
Yep.
To a student and then where?
Yeah, you go to the gear and student quiz results, and then you just click on a student. So when I click their name, it's going to be the view log option at the top. Once you click on a student's name, it gives you that view log. If I needed to grade a question, question 28 is my essay question, I can also click here and go straight to grade it if I want to. You don't have to have essay questions, just know if you do assign an essay question, obviously you have to grade that. Canvas, I wish they could grade essay questions for me. You can easily get to grade that though as well. Other questions about just assessment and data and assessments?
He had one from before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
He was, yeah.
Or about the, okay. Well, mine is quick.
Okay, go for it.
A Likert style.
Likert style, yeah.
I was looking at an ungraded survey and then I was like, oh, I just wanted to pre-populate the Likert answers.
Yeah.
Does it do that?
It doesn't do that exactly, but there's a whole guide in there. I don't think it's a guide. You might need to search when you go to the community, go home, and then search and type that. There's a whole post about it, of how to create that in Canvas. And with the new quiz tool that's coming out soon, there's a type of question for that specifically. So it'll be resolved anyways, but there is a workaround in the community. If you go home, it opens up your search if you go home. So go to that space. Yeah. All right, so we got really advanced with quizzes. Last topic, data and settings in a course. And then we'll take the last hour open time. If you want to work on something yourself, I'll walk around, I'll answer questions, I'll demo what you want. But this is the stuff that we really normally don't have time in a training to show. Really, really useful to show. What data is in a course besides just quizzes? Well, just going home, right on the right-hand side is your course analytics. Just going home, you can see data. Go to course analytics on the right. I can see graphs of how participative my course is, and I can even toggle to get more granular. At the top right, I can switch to a table view and see item by item what I want to see. So what's this? Activity by date. I can see how active my class is month by month, day by day. Submissions. This would be alarming as a teacher. Here in submissions, these are all missing assignments. Percentage of missing versus late versus on time. It's a training account. This would not be a real class. I would be a terrible teacher if this was a real class. But at least gives you that alarming, I would know to pay attention to this if I saw that. Then you get a whole grade distribution box and whisker plot for your grades in your course. And you can hover over all these items and it gives you the micro data there. So you can tell which assignment it's for, all of that. Now you can even get more granular with students. I'm going to go back to home. Back to that breadcrumb trail. So that's home view course analytics. What if I want to see student information and reports? I go to people, because that's where all my students are, and I click on a student's name. Anytime you see a student's name, click it. You can get data. People, I'm going to click on a student. Look what pops up. I get this little course card kind of quick access information, I can go to their grade view and see what the student sees for their grades. I can go to analytics and see all those charts and graphs for this specific student. Where do they fit in the grade distribution? How active are they being? Let's go there really fast. I want to show you some cool tools here. You get the same first graph. This is one I love. How communicative are they being? If a student complains to an advisor, my teacher's not communicating with me. Well, here's a nice record. Or the teacher is concerned the student's not replying. You can manage teacher versus student interactions and replies. Kind of a cool thing here. You can see their specific submissions and their grade distribution through that analytics. So that's one thing you can see by clicking on a student's name. You can also see when you click on a student's name. No, yeah, that's a special feature. Ignore it. You see how I didn't mention it? You don't get this magical button here. You can't become your students like an admin can. I'm sorry. You do get this quick look at their percentage, their last graded items, and then you get this auto-populated activity look. It shows you, compared to the rest of the class, how participative and active is this student. It's kind of just a quick glimpse. Oh, this student has 1 star. They're not doing what they need to do. It just kind of gives you a quick alert if you need to pay attention to this student. Now, I can click on their name again and get data and reports. If I click on their name again, it's going to take me straight to their profile. What's on their profile page? Any kind of information they put there, or this is always the slowest page to load no matter what training I do. There's lots of good stuff here. On the right-hand side are all the specific reports for this student. So again, you can get to their grades and analytics. Interactions shows how participative they're being. One of my favorites is access report. I can see whenever they're logged into the browser if they've clicked on all these different items, how many times they viewed it, if they participated, what their last date and timestamp is. Kind of a nice thing to see what they've accessed so far in your course. Take it with a grain of salt. If they're using the app, it doesn't really record this. There's other use cases where they may have clicked on something, not really read it. I mean, it's just a way to quickly glimpse, are they being active in this course or not? Are they accessing my content or not? Just know there's lots of data inside of a course. Home, course analytics, or people clicking on students' names get you to their individual analytics. People don't even know that stuff's there. That's why I make a point to show it. The last place I'm taking us is settings. I'm pointing out the things we haven't talked about yet. I am not, again, going through everything here, but I do want to point out you have the ability to look at those granular details with course details, your sections, you have all those different links. Navigation helps you streamline what's here. Don't forget about that. Really, though, I want to point us to the right-hand side and just say, number 1, don't forget student view in settings. Number 2, there's this magic validate links. If you're getting content from Moodle or you have old content, there's a way for this to scan your whole course and see if you have any inactive links for students, and it lets you go fix them. Really useful if you have a lot of stuff in your course, especially when you're copying stuff over. It's the perfect time to do that, right? Go to settings. No one ever notices that button. It's so useful. Validate links. It scans your whole course. Now, the last thing I'm showing you in this space, importing and exporting course content. That is how you copy content from course to course. If you want to move maybe a quiz from this class to another class where you teach a similar topic, you can use that import course content and copy it from course to course. You can copy your whole course. You're going from semester 1 to semester 2. You can copy the whole course, or you can select specific things to copy. You have both options. Just know if you want to copy things from course to course, it's the import and the export buttons. The difference, exporting course content gives you like a file package. And the only options for export are your whole course or your quizzes. Import pulls in content from other courses, and you can literally choose anything in your course to copy. Pretty easy. I always choose import. I'll show you what it looks like. You go in the course you want the stuff moved to, click import, and you say I want to copy maybe from a Canvas course. I can find the course I want to copy from. Try that one. And then I can pick all or select specific. So if I pick all content, I'm done. I click import, whole class comes over. That's how easy it is semester to semester. That easy. I'm going to point. I'm pointing it. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. The second option, select specific. That's if I want to copy certain things. I then click import, and it gives me this little box, last steps, just to select the content. Then I can click that. See if it'll still let me. I can click that, and then I go through my whole course. Look at all the stuff I can pick from. I can pick question banks. I can pick quizzes. I can pick rubrics. Let's say I want to copy these rubrics to my other course. I can pick whatever I want here. When I click select, done, it copies. That's it. It's that fast to copy stuff. So you can pick some or all, and here's the magic checkbox. If you're copying from semester to semester, so this semester you're setting all your deadlines for this semester. Next semester you'll have different deadlines. This allows you to bulk adjust all dates and deadlines. You can either remove all the dates and start fresh, or you can shift dates, like everything that was on a Monday is now due on a Tuesday, and so on. This is a magic button that lets you kind of shift or substitute dates for things in bulk right up front when you're copying content. You can always do it later too. Just know that's through that import, it's in the settings. Settings is that place to go explore. There's a million things there. We've covered all of the main topics. Don't forget help. I even made a slide. Please don't forget help. That's the most important thing. And then I also am going to include, I'm not going to go through these with you, but I do have, for those of you who want to start designing some neat things for your course, I put some of my favorite design resources in here. And then, yeah, we have now the next 50 minutes if you want to stay and ask questions, have some work time, and just get advice on things. We can take questions online, and I'll answer anything you have. Yes?
Erin, can we remind folks, or just let folks know, both in the room and online, that there's a survey? We could really use your feedback. It's at z.umn.edu/canvas-training-feedback.
Let's put that on here.
So Erin's going to add it.
Going to add it for you.
So it's z.umn.edu/canvas-training-feedback.
All right, putting it up here. Absolutely.
Short, it's like 5 questions. You can answer as many or as few as you want.
Great. So this is a good time for that as well then. Yep, and I'll answer any questions. I'm here the next 50 minutes. Whatever you need, this is the time.
How do you go directly to question banks to edit, update folders? You'll have to repeat that.
Okay, so getting to question banks, we didn't cover that. I'll show you. All right. So here, I'll keep this up for a minute and then we'll go into question banks. Oh, no, we're good. No, I was giving people a minute for the survey, then we'll answer the questions. Yeah.
Conversation about outcomes, I know,
We can now. Yeah, we can talk about outcomes, absolutely.
and I understand there's some development on campus with perhaps campus labs. I don't know if you have any feedback related to that. Or if there's
Not yet, no.
things about-
Not yet, no. Do you all have how you're doing? Because I don't open the can of worms because I know every institution releases outcomes differently. So I can talk about the functionality of outcomes all day, but what's the plan? Is it going to be coming from the top level, from the account level? Do you have a plan yet for outcomes that you know of?
Either course or sub-account level.
Okay, so it's not going to come as a whole institution. It's going to be departmental pretty much. Okay. So it's an option if they want to add their own outcomes, they can, or get to their account. What's the word? Category support person can help with that too. All right. I'll point out outcomes too. I'll go into question banks and outcomes. All right, hopefully everyone's gotten the link at least by now. I can take this off the screen. I wanted to give everyone a minute. It's never fun typing URLs. All right, so let's talk about question banks first. That was an online question, so I want to make sure we get to all of those. If you're working online, this is an open time for you as well. Keep asking your questions. When I get to question banks, here's how I get to them. I click on quizzes in my course, and it's the only option in the gear. Manage question banks. This is a place automatically created for you. I'll take us in this UMN where I don't have a lot of stuff. I already set up question banks here. But in this course, I don't really have anything. Let me go to question banks in this blank course I've been using today. Gear, question banks. This is probably more like what yours looks like. When you start making questions, if you don't worry about question banks at all, when you start making questions here, it automatically stores them in an unfiled question bank. That's just so that you never lose anything you create. Now, once you start to get some questions, you don't want to just keep them unfiled. You're going to have to sort through a huge list every single time. You can start to make banks and sort them into those banks. What's another advantage of banks? Well, it also helps you randomize question order and questions asked on assessments. Because when you're in a quiz, you can create a group that randomly pulls questions from a question bank. So you could have a bank of questions. Maybe you have 10 questions on camera shots. But you only want 5 asked on the quiz. So you, in a quiz, can create a group. I want to randomly pull 5 of 10 of those questions from that question bank into the assessment. And it'll be random for every student. So if you want to get into randomization of questions, question banks is the place to start building out. It also helps you find your things easier. So this is what it looks like at a blank perspective. Let's look at what you do to sort and organize and access those question banks. So I'm going to go back to a class where I have tons of questions. It's really easy to add a question bank. You just click plus question bank and title and enter. That's it. That's the process. When you're in those, let's look at the unfiled questions, that whole list of lots of questions. I moved a lot of these out. But every time you make a question, it comes here. You could sort through, and you get some options. I have this move or copy question to another bank. I can click that and say, ooh, I want to go ahead and move both of these, scroll down, to either a new question bank. I can make a new bank right here, or I can move it to an existing question bank. These are the different banks here. All right? So I can pick first the questions, the question I want to move, and pick the bank it goes to. And then I either can also do question bank, a new one from here. If I click new, I can just title a new bank that it goes to. And this option allows me to keep a copy here. If you want to keep a long list in unfiled questions, you can do that. You can also go to the right-hand side and move multiple questions at once. So I can click on the right, move multiple questions, and just check out as many as I want to move. Same process, just doing more than one. I can delete a bank. Bookmark allows this to be accessible in any courses you teach. If I bookmark this bank, I can find this bank other places. Outcomes is something we're going to be talking about in a little bit. This is one area you can tie outcomes. Every time you have a set of questions aligned to an outcome, you can set to where it tracks the mastery of that outcome. We're going to get to outcomes in a little bit. Just know quizzes is one place you can track them. I'll go into more detail with that. So right now, just looking at a bank itself, questions about a bank of questions. Yes?
Could you share question banks in the comments?
I don't think you can share question banks. You can share quizzes, which would then add that set of questions to that other user's question bank. When you copy content from course to course, you can pick specific question banks. You can also share by exporting in the settings export, and you're able to just share quizzes out and give quiz files to others too. So there's a couple different ways for that. Yes?
You said if we bookmark the question bank, then we'd be able to access it from our other classes.
Yes.
Does it make a copy in the other class, or are we?
No.
Okay.
No. It's just going to be accessible when you go to find a question bank. It does not make a copy when you bookmark.
Okay, but there doesn't seem to be a problem when it comes test time, reaching over to pull that question in.
There's not a problem when you go to assess and pull that question in. The problem lies in if you start to edit the question once it's in an assessment, all future assessments would be affected. So it is a better practice. I still tend to organize banks and keep them pretty consistent from course to course. And I might have duplicate banks that I would then use for other courses if I do start to edit question banks for one specific course. So just get careful when you start to edit questions. That's where you get into the mess.
And if you do copy, or if you do copy the question into another bank, does it prompt you to rename the title Or does it just accept the fact you're making a duplicate of the same question in a new location?
It's the same title, whatever copies over. So you would have to, on your own, if you want to rename it. It's going to, when you go to find the question and pull it in, it's going to be pulled from a different space. So, but they're totally separate questions at that point. Even though they're the exact same text, it's going off the location it's pulling from. So it's not going to overwrite if they're in different banks, even though it's the same question. Because when you go to find the question, you're finding it in a specific bank.
We've actually had that trouble
Okay.
by not, by a mere
Without naming it, without renaming it?
without identifying it as being different.
Huh. I haven't heard that before. Once it's copied to the other place, I haven't seen that as an issue, but.
Not in Canvas, but that's why.
Oh, in other, yeah, okay. That's a good question then. I was like, I didn't know that was an issue in Canvas. No, that's really important to ask then. Yeah, you want to make sure you're not having issues with that. So yeah, that's good to know. And then also another thing to point out is when you get the new quiz integration, right now, you can align outcomes to question banks, meaning that whole bank of questions is tracking like one learning goal. In the new quiz tool, you can have per question an outcome, per question. So you could theoretically assess like 10 learning goals in a quiz of 10 questions. Outcomes is what we're getting to next, so it'll make more sense in a second, but that's something cool I just thought of because it's related to this. The new quiz tool does have a few extra features that we don't currently have in this tool. There's also a lot more question types coming. Hotspot questions, stimulus questions with following questions. There's lots of new question types coming as well. You're not losing any of this. This is staying, so don't feel like you're going to be confused. You're not wasting time. This stuff stays. You never lose these questions. But you'll have added bonus types of things with the new quiz tool they're developing. It's kind of cool. All right, any other quiz-related questions? You don't have to do this, but it's nice if you want to really manage all your questions. Randomly pull questions in. It gets to be a really useful feature of Canvas. Yes?
Can you import question banks from other
Yes.
applications?
Yes, okay. So can you import question banks from other places? Yes, this is where we get more technical. When you go to settings again, there's that magical settings place that we keep referring to all day. And you go to import course content. There are some options for quiz files. The best quiz type file is a zip file, a QTI file. A lot of applications will export to that. Whether you use ExamView, test generators, you use other formats, if you can get it into one of these formats, Canvas will accept it. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to come over perfectly, and you have a very amazing tool here called Respondus. And one of the workarounds for Respondus is that Respondus allows you to take and save an exportable format. I don't have Respondus myself, but I know institutions use Respondus to get questions into Canvas that they can't normally get into Canvas. Do you have a best practice for that here yet, or is that just something they should know?
For accessing Respondus?
Yeah.
If they email the help desk.
Okay.
That's the best thing to do.
So emailing help desk if you have more questions about Respondus, accessing it. Okay, the canvas@umn.edu? Okay, .edu. So yeah, you'll get more information about that if you want to get bulk questions uploaded. They're able to help you. But you can also, there is a Moodle version here. If you export assessments from Moodle, you can also pull them in. So if you get it in that Moodle file format, it'll accept it. Just always, whenever you get your questions from another place, once they're in there, look at them. Sometimes pictures don't copy over. Sometimes question types are different. So you want to at least preview before you assign things that you copy over. But you are able to get different file types into Canvas. It's useful to know. Settings, import content.
Especially for languages and technical sort of questions.
Yes, you want, the more technical your questions get, yes, you want to be very careful when you preview what they are. But it's at least nice to know you can bulk get stuff in here and just tweak it then. It's helpful. And then you make it once in Canvas, it's there forever, so you never have to worry about that again. It's kind of, once you get that initial work done, it's there. It's way less time consuming after that. Great questions. All right, any other questions before we dive to outcomes?
Erin, there was a question earlier about
Okay.
Are there any features on the horizon for assignments that include peer feedback? So having multiple deadlines, one for the assignment to be due and then another for the feedback to be due so that it shows up on the calendar twice.
Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people want the peer review and peer feedback option to be more robust. That's something that's been in the talks for a long time on assignments. I'm not sure, I know they've been talking about it. I don't know of an actual feature in development, but that's a good time to point you all to this resource. When I am inside the help area, let me go to UMN Help. Another useful feature here is, I'm telling you, help is the best thing for you. There's the submit a feature idea. And you don't just have to even go there. I can click there and I'll show you what that looks like. You can search for ideas that are in the works. Every 3 weeks, Canvas updates, and they really do take user feedback. Now, it doesn't mean everything gets prioritized. Some stuff gets put on the back burner. Right now, they're working on a few really, really big integrations. All of our developers are pretty much working on the quiz tool and on the, like Gauge is our new assessment tool. There's a lot of stuff they're now working on that's like high priority. So sometimes those little features, I mean, I think we can live without one little feature while we're getting these big integrations. But I've seen things, I've been with Canvas long enough as a teacher and at my district and stuff. I've seen things my colleagues have submitted that have come into Canvas. So it really is a system that works. It's just sometimes things are prioritized over others. You can always be part of beta testing. You can see the big launches on the works. You can see, this is the most I've, by the way, ever seen for big projects at one time. They're pretty devoted in these areas right now. But that doesn't mean you can't see what ideas here are open for vote, what's kind of on their radar, what's in development currently, what's in beta currently, what's completed. So you can kind of track this progression of new ideas coming into Canvas, but you yourself can also submit a feature idea. And you're able to add an idea. So let's go, I'm going to go home at the top and show you the button. So where it says share ideas, it gets you back to that space. The share ideas, same place. I just want to show you there's more in the community than just the one space we're going. And here you can go and see what's on the radar. I don't think I'm logged in. That's why it's not letting me share an idea. Yeah. If you're logged in here, you'll have a button to share an idea. You can type a post like, I really wish there was this feature. People can vote on it. You get 150 votes. It's on their radar and they start to look at it. You're at a huge university. Vote up things for your people here. If you have an idea, communicate it. You can get easily 150 votes just from UMN. So this is a place that actually you could say a lot for Canvas because you have such a big institution. Don't be afraid to put your ideas here because they really do use them. Granted, some do get put on the back burner, but I've seen myself probably 10 to 15 things I've had people I know submit that have come to light in Canvas. Lots of gradebook features that are new now. We've been asking for duplicate assignments forever. Now we can duplicate them. That has been something I wish I really had as a teacher. It drove me crazy we didn't have it. Now it's a feature in Canvas a couple years later. Sometimes it takes a little time, but every 3 weeks they're updating it. So they really do take to heart things that people submit. They want this system to be as user-centric as possible. They're just a little prioritized right now with some of these really big integrations, but they are looking still at the things you submit. So that's another nifty thing about the help is you can get into the community and get really involved, recommend things, submit feature ideas, see what's on the radar, stuff like that. So it's a good segue to that.
But probably search for it first.
Search first.
Search and vote it up.
Yeah. It could be already a feature there. You could vote for an idea that already exists. Sometimes you'll find like a lot of people have the same ideas as you, so you can go and vote for it and even comment why you think it's a good idea. Absolutely. All right, let's switch to outcomes, then we'll keep taking more questions, or I can just even circulate and answer specific questions. All right, what is an outcome? You can create outcomes, first of all, at different levels. Your category support admin people can create an outcome that then anyone in your department could use in a course. You as a teacher can build an outcome for your course. For example, I taught video production. No one else taught video production at my school. So I had no curriculum. I made my own curriculum. I did my own research. I worked with professionals and built a curriculum. So I couldn't just find outcomes from my institution. They didn't have any for video production. I went and made my own. What is an outcome? It's a learning goal you track progress on. So outcomes are typically tied to accreditation or certification. Like, I know a lot of universities have very broad outcomes like communication. Like, students will be able to communicate effectively, written, oral, and it's a standard like that, some kind of learning goal. You can have as many as you want in your course. You just go to outcomes to build them out. So I'm going to go to outcomes. You can create organization and structure here for it. I'll show you my class where I have outcomes already. So you can see I have here already some outcomes and some folders of outcomes. I have outcomes related to accreditation, career college readiness, and then the fundamentals of video production in my video production class. Now, when you start, you have nothing. When you want to add those folders to organize your outcomes, maybe you have institution outcomes and then your course outcomes. You could have 2 folders for them. A group is a folder in this space. So I could say maybe these are for accreditation. Can't spell accreditation right now. My brain is dead. Oh my gosh, this is where I hit my brain capacity right now. This is it. We talked about that earlier. Where's your energy from? I still have energy, but my brain is dying right now. It's happening. It's hemorrhaging. I know how to spell words. I'm really good at spelling, actually, I promise. Accreditation, is that right? See, I know how to spell. My brain is dead. All right, so you can name groups. You even have the ability to put details if you want to explain it to yourself. I'm just going to name it. I'm creating essentially groups or folders to organize my outcomes in. You don't have to. You could just have 5 outcomes for your class. They have to do this, 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 this in my class. What are your core competencies or learning goals? Man, this isn't in my regular training class, but I had a guide, let's see, accreditation learning goals. Let's see if we can find some that already exist. Nope. Let's do university core competencies. Yeah, whatever. Okay, no, I'm not going to search that. Let's just make one up. All right, in my video production class, for example, I had, oh man, I have too much open now. I told you, my brain is dying right now. Okay, I made a group for fundamentals of video production where I put all my outcomes relating to video production. You can make as many layers of groups as you want. I then sorted all my video production ones into categories. I had goals on audio production, digital literacy, print production, video production. So I had even more targeted goals. You sort however you want. You don't even need folders or groups if you don't want to. It's just your own organization. I knew I had a lot of goals, so I made it this way. Once you have your folders, then you can add outcomes to those folders. What's an outcome? Here's an example. Students will be able to identify the different types of microphones. That's a core competency for my class. So I create this scale. This is independent of the grade book. You get a whole separate grade book just for tracking mastery. This is a more authentic way to assess. When you're grading an assignment, you could be grading things like, did they put their name on their paper? Did they follow instructions? Did they meet time requirements? Really having nothing to do with core learning goals of your course. This is how you can track the core learning goals of your course. What are the essential things they need to master in my course? This is how I accurately assess it. When you're looking at the grade book, I'll show you how this is different. When I track mastery of learning goals or outcomes versus the grades, these are my grades. Here's the separate learning mastery grade book. This is where when I track outcomes, where their assessment goes, it's different. It is showing if students are mastering or not by a color code. Has nothing to do with grades. Are they mastering this skill or not? Are they mastering this goal or not? It's a way for me as a teacher to see, are they getting the core competencies of my course, independent of their grade? Because they could honestly be getting 100 on an assignment or a really high grade on an assignment, but still not be getting the essential learning of it. They might just be really good at following directions. Converse to that, they could have a really low grade on the assignment, but really be mastering. They're just lazy. They know your content. They're just not doing well on your graded content. So this is a more accurate representation if they're learning what they need to learn, independent of grades. It's a whole separate gradebook view, learning mastery. It's a quick list. Are they mastering these topics? I can hover once I create outcomes and see what that outcome was. You can see the scale I set, and we're going to go back and look at now building that outcome. That's what that looks like in the end when you track it. Building the outcome, you have your goal, you set your scale of mastery. Mastery is typically 3 points, or you could have a 5-point scale, a 3-point scale. You always want to have one level above mastery for those who are like above and beyond. We just usually keep to a 4-point scale. A lot of instructional models keep to the 4-point scale, so I tend to master or replicate that here. You set what level mastery is at. All of this is completely editable. How you're calculating mastery, and it explains it all here. Let's look at building our own. Let's do plus outcome. Let's add an outcome to this group. Did not mean to open in a new tab. Let's go here, plus outcome. All right, I have no outcome here. I'm making one for my class. I'm in my audio production category. So let's think of a learning goal they might need to master for audio production. Students can trim and split audio clips in an audio editor. Could be a fundamental goal they have to be able to do. Friendly name is just if students don't understand the official name of your outcome. Or sorry, I don't put that there. This is just the name, sorry. Told you, brain dead. It's happening. My outcome comes here at the bottom. That's the name of the outcome. I use naming conventions. You don't have to. You can just call it audio trimming if you want. It could have a text name. You can see where that name's going. Or I can keep a naming convention. Maybe this is standard 2.1, whatever, 2.2. You make whatever naming conventions you want for your outcomes. Friendly name is how you break it down for your students. That's where I could even put a text description. Trimming and splitting. I type my outcome here. I have text tools if I want to add pictures and stuff like that. For higher ed, it's not really necessary. It's more for younger kids. Then I make my scale. What do I set as mastery? What do I make my scale? I can completely edit this labeling. A lot of people don't like meets expectations, exceeds expectations. And K-12 a lot, we use mastery, the word mastery. So you can change the verbiage here if you want to. You don't have to keep this verbiage. It's completely editable. That's what the pencil does. You can even add additional criteria ratings. So what happens from 0 to 3? I could always add additional. Well, they could get 1 point, meets very few expectations. Change the words if you want. Insert too close to meeting expectations. You add as many layers as you want here. It's completely customizable. The goal is just to have a scale range. I'm going to edit that point value to 4 instead of 5. Just be consistent in your course what you do. So I have this range now of points. I set the level of mastery. I say if they hit a 3 on this scale, they've mastered this goal of students can trim and split audio clips in an audio editor. And then you pick the calculation method. There's a guide on all of these, so if you're confused by this, you can always pick the guide. Decaying average means the most recent item you score counts for more than the other items. So I can say maybe they're going to do an assessment 3 assessments on this goal. Well, the most recent assessment, the final assessment, is going to count as maybe 65 or 70%. The others don't count as much. You completely create your own calculation method. It's always explained right here. I can do decaying average. I can do number of times. So to master this goal, they have to meet mastery, get a 3 at least 2 times. Or at least 3 times. I can set if they have to hit mastery a number of times, or if just get an average that meets mastery. I can also say their most recent score is the only one that counts. So they have to at least hit mastery the most recent time they do that assignment, or the highest score. Their highest has to at least hit mastery to be mastery of this topic. So remember, to know if they've mastered, you have this color code. I can see green means they've mastered. Yellow means they're near mastery. Red means they're not even close. I can see how to build the outcome here. I can just click Save and build it. How do I assess this outcome to get it to that grade book? There's that step that's missing. Where does this outcome go? Right now, it's just a goal. Okay, it's nice to know this is the goal. How am I assessing this? There's 2 ways to assess it. You can tie it to a rubric. You can tie it to a set of quiz questions. 2 ways you can assess. You're probably going to want to assess it multiple times to really track and give students opportunities to pass. So once you have them created, let's look at the places you can add them. All right, I have my goals created in video production. Let's first look at an assignment. I'm just going to go to an assignment where I have a rubric. That way we already kind of know what we're doing. Actually, I don't know which ones I have rubrics for. Let's see, maybe here. Perfect. All right, when I'm in a rubric, you have this find outcome option. I just go now, it takes me right to my course. I find the outcome I created. Let's pretend I'm assessing that one I just made. Bam, import. That's it. I pulled it into a rubric. You do have one other option here. See this checkbox, use criterion for scoring? Do you want to use it as part of the rubric score or just not even have this relate to grading? I tend to turn that off. But if you technically wanted to have it as their final score, part of it, you could have it as a rubric score if you wanted. When I import this in, now look, you can see these are outcomes. You know they're outcomes in the rubric because of that little target symbol. So when you're assessing in the speed grade or this rubric, you're clicking on all your boxes. When you click on these boxes, it's going to count into that mastery gradebook here. All right? That's how it looks in a rubric. The other place you can add it to is that quiz question bank. When you are in a question bank, let's go to quizzes and question banks. I don't think this class has a question bank. We're going to just explore. There we go. It does. When I'm in a question bank, it has this align outcome option. When you add an outcome to a question bank, let me find an outcome. There we go. You have the ability, instead of do I want it to count as the rubric points, the option in a question bank is, in this set of questions, what do they have to score to master? Is it 60? Is it 70%? What percent do you want them to have to score to master that level? Outcomes is the most complicated topic we have. That's why we don't usually cover it in a basic session, but it's nice to know what is here. Outcome is just a way to track real learning to learning goals. You have a whole separate grade book to view mastery. It's more authentic assessment, and you can tie it to rubrics or question banks. That's the essentials for outcomes. All right. Questions about that? I feel like I'm starting to stump people with their questions. They're kind of done, right? All right, any other topics you want to learn? I am going to stop talking about outcomes right now. But if you have any other questions, ideas, even instructional design, that's my background. If you just want feedback, best practices, stuff like that, I'm happy to help. Any questions online, I'll keep answering. Yeah?
How do you insert the GIF you mentioned that you have?
in this dashboard here? Okay, so another nifty feature, I don't know if you have it turned on. Let me check if you have it turned on. You do? Perfect. All right. So in your course, you have to be in the course under settings. So the first tab is course details. I think they have to go to feature options, don't they? Okay. So to turn on that ability, they have that as an option. You have to go in settings, feature options, and click this enable dashboard images. That's the one you turn on right there. To sneeze.
It has to be done for each course.
Excuse me. They can in bulk. They just didn't do it during training because then it's kind of showing to everyone. They might not know what it is. They are able to. They just decided not to for training. Yeah. So enable dashboard images. You turn it on. Then you go back to course details and just refresh. It'll pop up there. It's now under course details, the first tab in settings. So the last tab in settings enables it, enable dashboard images. Course details now has this at the top. Choose image, and you can pick any picture or GIF file. It accepts all of those. So you just click here to browse, find the picture, I save it to my computer, pull it in. So I'll go through those steps again. Go in the course you want it in, and you go to settings, feature options, and make sure it's enabled. Then you can go to course details. You might have to refresh your page, and you now have this choose image ability, and that'll populate the image right there on your dashboard. It can be a static image or a GIF file.
People online are asking how they're going to get the resources that you're providing, the slide deck and the recording from this session. And everyone that has RSVP'd to the session will receive an email with the links.
Perfect.
There is a place on our website that we are already posting recordings, so a link to the recording will be there, and then we'll also provide what you provide us as follow-up.
Excellent. So you will get this. I will, after the few days of training, I will gather. There's some things that have been requested to also screenshot and share with everyone. So I'll add those to the slide decks and share them also with you, and they'll share them out with everyone. Perfect. All right. I'm here if you have anything.
I have another question. So Scott and I are.
Hi, this is Peg. So we are working on a Canvas community site, which I would say is kind of at a stalemate right now. So any tips you have for that?
It's very rare institutions even get that, so that's kind of nice. Yeah. So a Canvas, yeah, the Canvas community site is a special place within the community that you can have just for your users here at your institution. It's great if you want to have conversation, discussions, forums just for the users at UMN. It could be very UMN specific. You know, how should we use this feature at UMN in our schools and stuff like that. So best practices, I don't really have them because it's different every single place. That's something actually really tailored to customization. I always have best practices for everything. That's the one thing I think I don't have it for. It's really more if you want to get them in a conversation and participating in a communication kind of thing. It's a place for that. Sharing resources with everyone, it's a great forum for that, because sometimes we work in segmented departments where you can't communicate with each other. So it is a forum for all users across the university to communicate versus having to email your department leads, they communicate it. It's maybe you have a really great resource that you embed in Canvas that you would love to share out with the other faculty. It's a really good forum for that kind of thing. Resource sharing, tips, best practices, that type of thing's the best use of that community space.
And there's no templates that we can copy from.
No, even our own spaces in the community, we customize completely ourselves. So there is no template set there. We just redesigned the community even. It's a whole new design platform now that we have it. So it's kind of even new to us. We're still designing our own training content in the community. So no, there is no design template. You can try asking a question in the community. There are some power users who might have code and templates they'd share with you. We have those Canvas coaches whose job is to just function in the community. Sometimes they're willing to share things if you just ask it out there. But there's not like a storehouse of all the templates or anything like that. Yeah. Good question, though. I'm glad you guys have that. So many institutions don't get that. I'm very excited for you. Yeah.
So there are some publishers who have a way to embed their content or have, I think they call them deep links, something like that. And I see for McGraw, I think it's already.
McGraw-Hill's in there, yes.
What's the process to get other publishers?
So he's asking if you want publisher content in Canvas, what's the process for that? There is a process. Everything goes through a request to the university. And what was that? They have, on what page was that on?
c.umn.edu.
Okay.
/move to Canvas.
/move to Canvas. So that site has a request form. That doesn't mean they can integrate it. It depends on publisher to publisher, and they have to make sure the content's accessible. There's no data. There's a whole process for it. But you are able to request so that then the admins can look into that and try to get that integration for you. So sometimes it can take a little bit of time. McGraw-Hill is one of the easier ones to integrate, so that's probably the first. We always get integrated. Pearson, McGraw-Hill, things like that. But you can always request through that forum. So one of the best ways I see Canvas used for communication and department or institution-wide topics. So let's say you have a school that, you're like a department or school that has their own calendar of events, their own communication, things like that. The best practice for that would be to have a course just for all the users in your department. When you're talking about communicating information to a department, if you have a course, you can have the calendar used, announcements used, You can have a page with all the basic information about the department, and you can have everyone as users in that page. So for communication, things like that, it's helpful to have a course specific to that department or college or school. You can also, another use I love for courses is having collaboration courses. If you work with a group of teachers who all teach similar topics or, different levels of the topic or the same course, you can create a course and have yourselves all as teachers and just build everything together. And then I showed you the process and settings for copying stuff from course to course. Then you can just copy to your own student enrollment courses. So having shared courses for building together is really useful. If you do a lot of building, if you're sharing just a random one-off thing, the Commons is useful. But if you really do dive deeply into building with a group of teachers, having a shared course is immensely helpful for doing that. You can build your modules together, assessments together, and then it's a few clicks to copy to your real courses. So that's another really big use of courses is collaborations as well. Yep. So many things that we could potentially talk about at campus. I think really thinking about the course is not just a course for students. You can use the course in different ways for trainings, you have resource courses and stuff you've already given out to your users. So I think it's just trying to get everything. My favorite term for Canvas is it's a one-stop shop. Put as much as you physically can put there. It's not only making your life easier having one place to go for everything, but it's also enhancing the student experience. We want things to be as less confusing as possible, as intuitive as possible. We want students to be successful. That's the goal at an institution. We want our students to learn and be successful. Putting everything in this one place is really going to help do that. I feel like it's worth the time investment. Every single person I've ever worked with, myself included, is overwhelmed when they start. It's a new place, lots you can do, lots of customizations, but it's worth the time investment. Once you start building a Canvas and pulling everything in, it's there. You don't have to redo any of that stuff. All your settings copy semester to semester. You never have to recreate your things. So I promise you, semester 2, my life was easier. I could spend more time semester 2 enhancing what I was doing, making better projects, really enhancing instruction and feedback. By year 2, my course was built. I was just using it to do all the main processes of a course, giving feedback, communicating with students. All my stuff was in there. So it's really, the time investment's overwhelming at first, but it pays off immensely for you.
I'm wondering, is that what Central wants us to do, is copy our own courses? I'm asking like on behalf of faculty. Or would you guys, I thought Sarah kind of, you're like, no, or I'm not sure what the plan is there. If
You mean from Moodle to Canvas?
Yeah, because like with the Moodle world, they would always, that's kind of that core team, and I'm just wondering if that's.
We throw it right back at the colleges. I don't know if we've got a central stance of what we're saying you should do. Online can't pick this up at all.
Oh.
If I use this.
Oh, you can try, or go up here. Try, go ahead and speak.
Oh, that's not being picked up at all?
Hi, I'm online, hopefully you can hear. The Central doesn't have, I don't think we have a stance. We've actually been referring everybody back to their colleges, but then there's things like CSE doesn't have a central person, or they do, but they don't necessarily have the same supported area and stuff. So I think we're also saying it depends. We found that a lot of people who, in the pilot, who did transfer courses over, ended up liking it better when they built things from scratch. But I also know it also depends on how much stuff you have out there. If you have a simple course that just has resources, that's going to be easy to transfer over. If you have a more complicated course that you want to set up and have more of a flow for how students access stuff, it might be easier to set up from scratch. So I don't know if that answered your question, Peg, though. But. And then we're helping people transfer stuff over, but then there's a lot of cleanup that goes along with it too, and it gets back to have the colleges decided what navigation pieces to turn on and off. Like, we're asking those questions too, because we don't want everything turned on that default, to be on. I know one of the questions I wanted to ask Erin, is there a secret to Commons, linking to something in Commons? Because when we've tried to have a template out there or something like that and say, here, go here to Commons, it just brings you to Commons in general.
Yeah,
and
there
not to
is
the
no
actual-
linking to Commons, but you're definitely going to want to make sure you share to the private space, because in Commons, teachers can easily find those items. Let me go to Commons here. there's a little toggle at the top. Most people don't know. We haven't covered comments at all today. But if you want to see just what's shared from UMN, you can always click that toggle, and it makes your search a lot easier. So if you don't know where to find it, you can do that. There is no way to directly link, though, to a link inside of the comments. You'd want to just give this specific title, and they could come search for it here.
There's something in the studio to bring linking to the comments as a way to get around this. Hey, search for this, this, and this.
Yeah. Like I said, lots of things we could do. We can make this, I always think of, I myself have about 30 suggestions of what I want to see in Canvas too. So it's a growing feature, but I love that they at least listen and try to get feedback from users. And that's the thing, is it's grown from when I started a few years ago to now. The changes that are in there are unbelievable. It's pretty awesome.
I think it's worthwhile noting especially to faculty, instructors and faculty that are out there that aren't necessarily part of the academic technology community here, that we do have something started that's sort of an upvoting, saying to other people, go upvote this stuff. And so our maybe next steps is figuring out how to get that more accessible to instructors and teachers to be able to be like, yes, I want that too. And now I know where to go and upvote that.
Awesome, love it.